Yan's here for. You just said. Grandpapa? Yes, Grandpapa is so good-looking, Ling Yan likes him very much. The pipsqueak carefully leans her head closer, so that her voice doesn't get picked up by the others. But I didn't tell anyone about our family mother. I don't know if Grandpapa is father's enemy or not. Am I not very clever? The little pipsqueaks irradiated the playfulness of a child that seems to have pulled off a prank successfully. There's nothing wrong with her liking Heavenly, but for her, it's more important to keep her parents safe. She won't give anyone the chance to hurt them. Ling Yan is so good. Bai Yin proudly rubs her little head. But now I am here to pick you up. Go gather your things, sweetie. We will say farewell and go home. Ling Yan nodded. Okay, Mother. I will go see Grandpapa now. Mother said children need to be polite and well-mannered. Grandpapa took me in. I need to properly say farewell. Just as the pipsqueak was about to turn away, an authoritative woman in green had come out from the estate, showing a gentle smile at the sight of the child. Little young miss, his monarchness is currently out and not around. He's expected to return in a few days. The cheerful smile of the child swiftly disappeared following second elder butterfly's explanation, pursing those tiny lips into a thin line of frustration. Auntie Butterfly, do you know when Grandpapa is coming back? I'm leaving and want to say goodbye to him. I'm sorry, the monarch did not say exactly when. Butterfly makes a troubled expression before looking up at the demon queen. Lady, you are the little young Mrs. Mother? Our monarch will be back in a few days. Can you wait for him to return first before departing? Bai Yin didn't reply right away. Instead, she gazed down at her daughter's figure, who clearly wanted to meet that person before leaving. Ling Yan have always been heavy on her feelings. If she's finding that grandfather to be so important, then he must have been very kind to her. Otherwise she wouldn't be so reluctant to leave. Mother! The pipsqueak turns to look up with that pathetically sad gaze. I want to say goodbye to Grandpapa. Meeting that peachy pink face, Bai Yin couldn't help but chuckle at her insistence. Okay, we will leave once he returns. It's my daughter. How can I ever bear to let her down? What's more, we can't leave this place for the time being anyways, so there's no problem in waiting for this monarch to return. Seeing Bai Yin has agreed to stay, second elder butterfly naturally breathed a sigh of relief. She was beginning to worry that the other party would insist on leaving before Heavenly returns. That would definitely make their liege very sad if he returns, and the girl goes missing. Miss Guya, how come you are here? It's only then does Butterfly realize there's a third person standing further ahead. Furrowing up her temple. I believe the monarch told you to not get close to the little young miss. How come you are here at the estate? Guya's complexion got a bit whiter as she quickly came up with the excuse. I came to see Heavenly. Heavenly? The name gave Bai Yin an instant flashback to that world behind the bronze gate. Didn't the ancient diary mention Heavenly when she was floating around in the sky as a spirit? The most interesting person she ever met. If I'm not mistaken, this Heavenly should be the same one. In that case, it would do well to meet him before leaving. Someone that's willing to sacrifice their own flesh and body for the sake of the world cannot be some mundane or bad person. Bai Yan's here 5. If from the beginning she had intended to stay due to Ling Yan's desire, then now Bai Yin was staying out of her own curiosity. Who wouldn't want to meet such a legendary figure, especially when it's somewhat related to her own life? Second elder butterfly did not notice Bai Yan's strange expression, and got all impatient with Guya's presence instead. Guya, the monarch is not at the estate, so you better leave first. And, the things you did behind everyone's back, don't think we do not know about it. If not for the fact that we are certain about your loyalty towards the monarch, you believe you could have gotten away with it? Guya's small dainty face immediately lost all color as she clenched those fists into a tight ball. Second elder, I'm sorry for disturbing then. I will return once the monarch is back. After saying this, Guya finally turned away, but not before giving Bai Yin and the pipsqueak one final resentful glance under the scorching sun. As for the two watchmen who suffered the most here despite doing nothing wrong, they wanted to erase their own existence after Butterfly's entry. Fortunately, the elder didn't pay them any heed. Otherwise, who knows what sort of punishment awaited them. Miss, allow me to give my gratitude for willing to stay. We've all been very curious on the sort of person you are to be able to produce such a good and wonderful child like the little young miss. Bai Yan raised an eyebrow at the way they addressed Ling Yan, but decides to not touch on that topic. Your monarch is called Heavenly, is it not? Heavenly is the name of our monarch, yes. Butterfly smiles in a friendly manner to show she means well. There's no reason for her to be hostile after all. Their liege already ordered the little pipsqueak to become the manor's young miss. That meant the child's the most important person aside from the guy himself. Now that the baby's mother has become, it's only normal for her to get friendly and avoid offending the other party. Said Bai Yan as she held the child's hand. I and Ling Yan will be here until he returns then. Do let me know once he does. Please make yourself at home during this period. I will be sure to inform you right away once the monarch does return. Making a welcoming gesture with one hand, Butterfly wishes to lead the way by opening the way. Bai Yan did not say since the other party was so welcoming, pinching her daughter's cheek. Ling Yan, let's go inside and rest first. These days, she's been anxiously running around and could not rest at all. Therefore it's only normal for her to want to relax for some calm. Manor. Guya was in a dreadful mood by the time she returned to her home. Due to this, the lady didn't even notice the old figure, who had stood in front of herself, until she actually bumped into the person. Tearing up after recognizing who it was. Gu Lao. The old senior immediately picked up on the panic and dread in that voice. Getting dark in the face, the Gramps reached out to know what's wrong since he's always thought of her as his own granddaughter. Is it Heavenly and that lass again? Guya shook her head to try to deny it, but those tears told the other side all they needed to know. It's not Heavenly, he's not at the estate. Bai Yan's here, 6. Miss, tell me what is going on, why are you crying? Gu Lao clenched his fist and asked angrily, raising her tear-covered eyes. Bitterness filled the lady's lip as she spoke. Ling Yan's mother came, and that woman, she's the most beautiful person I've ever met. What you mean is, the woman who took advantage of her own daughter's age has come. Gu Lao's eyes flared with anger. I thought she only wanted to use the child's cuteness to make some connection with the monarch manor. To think she's in fact trying to sneak into the monarch's bed instead. What's more, that child's mouth is too sweet. She's bound to help her own mother succeed at this rate. Huffing a grunt at the thought. Rest assured, miss, I won't let such a disgusting and vile woman get near the monarch. No one can take him away from you. Whoever dares to try, I will kill them. His desire to protect Guya has already reached an irrational level, so it doesn't matter if they are right or wrong. There's no difference in this old senior's mind anymore. Guya's body stiffened as she hung her head in a dejected manner. And, Gu Lao, Elder Butterfly, she threatened me and said she will let the monarch know of what I did. Threaten you? She thinks she's able to? Gu Lao sneered at the idea. It doesn't matter who it is that came up with the idea. In the end it was you who brought the monarch back, is it not? Naturally the credit goes to you. What right do they have to revoke that achievement? The fact that Butterfly wants to take credit proves she's not looking out for the monarch. I really have to wonder what the monarch is thinking in keeping such a bad person as an elder around. Guya did not refute the logic, and merely stayed quiet. She doesn't want to believe otherwise. After all, if it weren't for this opportunity of bringing Heavenly back, never would she have been able to get this close to the monarch. Though the process involves her stealing the idea and credit right under the elders of the manor. But what does it matter? Getting serious in the face, Guya's panic slowly faded away at that thought. Gu Lao, what should I do? I can't let Butterfly reveal this to the monarch. With the status of being the benefactor, Heavenly won't be so tolerant as me anymore. I won't let that happen. Aching in his old heart, the old senior gets firm in his voice. Miss, don't worry. I won't let anyone ruin your happiness even if it costs me my old life. His life was saved by the lady. Even if he dies for that goal, it would merely mean he's giving it back as payment. He's willing. Thank you, Gu Lao, I'm much better now. Guya manages to form a smile despite her eyes still being teary red. Fortunately you are here with me. Without you, I will be all alone. You also don't need to go make trouble for Butterfly. She has the protection of the monarch. I'm afraid you will encounter danger. By Yan's here 7. The senior did not answer Guya's words, however. His heart has already made a decision. Gu Lao, I want to go to the Monarch Manor again. The lady suddenly says as she bit her lip. Miss, the people of the Monarch Manor have treated you so poorly. Why are you insisting on letting them insult you again? Senior Gu Lao frowns with troubled confusion. In his eye, a woman like Guya needs love, while those people would only bring her shame and nothing else. Therefore, he's absolutely reluctant to let her go again. Now that the monarch is no longer at the estate, no one will dare to stop me since I have the status as his benefactor. Before I couldn't get a chance to learn of Ling Yan's mother, because of Butterfly's interference. Now I must use the opening to figure out her personality, before Heavenly returns. That woman. There is a good chance that she will become my enemy. If I wish to overcome this foe, I must get all the details and information beforehand. Gu Lao didn't like where this was headed, and furrowed up his forehead. Despite his internal turmoil about the idea, he didn't object to the request, since he knows any persuasion would be futile. The Monarch Manor. Inside the peaceful courtyard where the mother and daughter sat quietly on the pavilion, Bai Yin gently caresses the pipsqueak's hair, which drew a very relaxed and lovely face from the child. Mother, let me tell you something, you mustn't get angry afterwards, okay? What's the matter? That is, Ling Yin wiggles her body like a troubled maiden. Grandpapa wants to let his grandson meet me, but Big Brother said I mustn't get close to any men. If the time comes that Grandpapa brings his grandson, you must help me explain to them why and not because I am not willing. That brought a raised eyebrow to the Demon Queen. Definitely, the mother wanted to press for more details, but kept it in to let the baby continue. So, the pipsqueak raises her head then to meet Bai Yan's. Can you make Big Brother and Father not break their leg? The men in the family only listens to Mother. If Mother opens her mouth, then they will definitely listen. A smirking grin finally filled the Demon Queen's face. And why is that? Because Grandpapa is not a bad man. Therefore his grandson is certainly not a bad man either. The mind of a child remains relatively simple. Even if they are clever like Ling Yan's, they are still confined to the boundaries of their age, and couldn't go behind the first step in their thought patterns. As long as they don't hurt you, sweetie, anything is fine with me. Besides, your father and brothers won't just hurt anyone randomly. You don't need to fret about that point. Chuckling, Bai Yin pulls her daughter into a hearty hug, due to how silly her woes are. It's just that, now that they're speaking about that troublesome pair of boys, Bai Yan's heart was starting to miss them a little. But if they are to leave this domain, the only option would likely lie with Heavenly Flame himself. Only he could help them leave this place, since he's the one who created the world in the first place. Flashing with brightness in those little eyes, the pipsqueak gets all hopeful. Really? How come Ling Yan feel like they won't let anyone get close to me? It's like they don't care if they are coming with malicious intent or not either. Bai Yan's here 8. Narrowing in her eyes, a sneer filled Bai Yan's mouth. My daughter's happiness cannot be dictated by anyone. Even if that is Ditsong and Xiachen, no one can. The pipsqueak didn't quite get why her mother would react so strongly, thus leaving all bewildered and confused. What does this have to do with my happiness? My happiness is to be with everyone for the rest of my life. Mother, as long as I have father, big brother, second brother and auntie, then that is my greatest happiness. That said, the pipsqueak snuggles up into the woman's arm, her smile big and bright like the dazzling sun. You are still small, so you will understand what I mean later. In any case, your mother, I will always be on your side. Regarding the Demon Queen's statement here, it's undoubtedly different from Heavenly's. The clueless Gramps only said similar words, because he wanted to abduct this adorable baby girl home with him to meet his grandson. Meanwhile, Bai Yin said all of this from the deepest part of her heart, in the sincerest form. Bai Yin abruptly swings her head around then, when she suddenly sensed a third person coming over. Under the blistering sun, an elegant Guya wearing a light blue dress slowly strode over, her hips swaying hypnotically as if to tell the world that you mustn't ignore me lest you're blind. Towards this display, the Demon Queen undoubtedly found it displeasuring, since it reminded her of some unpleasant memories in the human world. Plus, what this woman did when she first arrived outside the monarch manor didn't go unnoticed. What reason left does Bai Yan have to like or favor this individual? Mother, I don't like her. The little pipsqueak squirms closer into her mother's arm. I always feel like she's scheming against me like some big bad wolf trying to abduct a white rabbit. Chuckling at her daughter's perception and description, Bai Yan reassures the child with her soft mellow voice. But you are not a little white rabbit, silly. You're a fox. Want to abduct my Ling Yan? It won't be so easy. Lady. Guya directly walks up to Bai Yan's presence without a care despite the cold reception. I did not know you were Ling Yan's mother earlier. I only thought the child is the monarch's granddaughter. That comment immediately brought a puckered Li to the child. Grandpapa have been looking everywhere for my mother. Everyone in the manor already knows about it. Guya's facade crumbled a bit after being called out. However, her thick skin prevailed, and the woman quickly recovered. That is because I am not living in the manor. I wouldn't have known that detail. Do not misunderstand me, Ling Yan. If I had known she's your mother, then I would never have stopped her from coming inside. Furthermore, it wouldn't have mattered if I intervened or not. The threshold for outsiders to come inside the monarch manor is no small feat. Not just anyone can come inside, you know. Simply said, she's implying Bai Yan didn't have the qualifications to enter, even if she didn't intervene with that lie. For Guya, she could force herself to like the pipsqueak for heavenly flame's sake. But for Bai Yan, who came out of nowhere, she only had disgust for the demon queen. Liar. Ling Yan huffs a grunt and proudly cocked her chin at the other side. Mother, I don't like to see this liar. Can we go back inside and nap? Guya's face changed completely, causing her breath to stutter at how rude she's being treated. If not for her years of training and keeping her manners, the woman would have long lost it. Ling Yan, you misunderstood me. I really do like you. I'm only looking out for you since I'm afraid someone might use you to their advantage. The little pipsqueak devil won. Bai Yan didn't react to that last statement, and instead brought the tiny body back into her fold in case the other side does anything unexpected. So you really like me? Ling Yan asks with skepticism, evoking an arcing smile at being responded. That's right, I really like you. This includes the monarch as well. I merely don't want you to be used by others, even if this other is your own mother. Is that so? The pipsqueak attaches herself onto Bai Yan's breast with that head. If you really like me, then can you not appear before me? Guya fell into a stupor there, unable to process why the conversation took such a sudden turn. I don't like you. Seeing you puts me in a bad mood. If you really like me like you claim, then you will do as I request. That said, the pipsqueak jumps out of that bosom, and spoke in a very cutesy manner. Like Grandpapa already said, he doesn't like you, so why do you keep hanging around us? Don't you know your behavior is very annoying? Guya's face suddenly went white, causing those red lips to purse into a thin thing that looked all pitiful and sad. Ling Yan, I'm just... Mother. The pipsqueak throws herself back into Bai Yan's bosom, and snuffed that little head into those breasts to not give the other side a chance. This baddie wants to put a rift between our relationship. If Mother does need Ling Yan's help, then I would be so happy if that's the case. That's a given. Who wouldn't want to help their own mother, that's given so much care since she was born? From education to diaper changing, Bai Yan has done it all in the mountain. Not many families would have to go through what they experienced in this life. Therefore the bonds they share are beyond strong. My Ling Yan is so good. Mother is happy to have a sweet daughter like you. Sugar to her ears, Bai Yan makes a grin right from the heart as she rubbed that head. Don't worry, sweetie. I will be sure to ask if Mother ever needs the help. Really? Ling Yan's eyes lit up, her iris sparkling with starry light. Ling Yan is not as strong as Big Brother, but I will do my best if Mother ever asks. Bai Yan did not say more to her daughter after that. Turning to meet the unwelcome individual, the demon queen's tenderness recedes in that moment, and showed nothing but a frosted chill. Against this open display of hostility, Guya instinctively stumbled backwards at the intensity of that gaze. Clenching her lips, she resentfully snickered a disdainful snarl at the provocation. Of course, that's all kept inside beneath that elegant mask of hers. Never would she show her true self. If only I can hook up with the monarch, I will definitely give him a child far better than this one. They will be sensible and kind, the polar opposite of this rude brat. Furthermore, I will never use my own baby as leverage in a scheme. I will only think about their happiness. That's how a mother should behave. Ling Yan, I'm only wanted to help. Now it seems my goodwill is unwarranted. Guya puts on a bittersweet smile. I hope you will not regret your decision in the future. Giving a final glance at the pipsqueak, she decisively turns away without looking back. The little pipsqueak devil too. Wait! Before she could make it far, a cold and harsh voice from the rear had caused the departing lady to halt. What else do you want from me? She frowns and asked after seeing Bai Yen had already left the pavilion and coming over to her location. Stopping right before the conceited lady, the demon queen raises a smirk with those overbearing eyes. You've been making trouble for my daughter during my absence? She had wanted to settle the debt with this Guya before, but the joy of reuniting with her daughter overshadowed the grudge. Now that the person herself came knocking of her own accord, why shouldn't she finish the job then? The elegant smile on Guya's face had long since disappeared, replaced by an eerie calm of indifference. I never made trouble for her, on the contrary, I like her very much instead. Rather it's you, miss. Why did you send a young child to our monarch's side? What is your purpose in using your own daughter? Hearing this story, Bai Yin couldn't help but cock an eyebrow at her logic. Folding those arms, she now wants to hear more to get a sense of what this person was like inside. Making a sarcastic sneer before continuing. She is only 2 years old, an age where she's pure and innocent, so she won't understand the concept of right or wrong. You've taught her all the wrong things. Ask yourself, do you believe yourself to be a suitable role model as a mother? This lady spoke from the grounds of superiority, moral high ground, dismissing any chance of herself being wrong. Worst of all, she already broke her own sense of justice by stealing the credit from the elders in using their idea of reviving Heavenly. In a sense, she's a genuine hypocrite. Oh, wanting to laugh at the accusation, Bai Yin forms a big wide grin. So you're saying you can be a better mother than I am? Guya promptly shot her sight upon the pipsqueak. If not for Heavenly's doting attitude towards this child, I might like her too with such a cute appearance. Pity though, her personality is too crooked thanks to this scheming woman here. She cannot be saved anymore after such a poor education. Assuming if she were my daughter, I would properly educate her in the proper path. I will let her know what is right or wrong. Let her know what she can't and can do. That pompous statement only made Bai Yin want to roll her eyes instead of getting angry. In fact, the demon queen's ready to throw up at how grossed out she felt inside at the logic with this person. So, to remedy that grossness, she directly sends a twirling kick into the other side's chest to get her opinion across. Guya naturally didn't expect this sudden kick from out of the blue. Why would she? They were inside the monarch's home. Who would dare attack someone here? As a result, she got slammed into the wall behind her back in a loud bang. My daughter does not need an impure-minded individual to lecture them. Retracting her outstretched leg, Bai Yin stares down at the coughing Guya with threatening intent. You kept mouthing off about my daughter trying to get close to Heavenly with intent. Now I want to know what is your intent on getting close to my daughter, Based on the details she got from Di Ling Yin thus far, Bai Yin was certain this Guya had some sort of motive in using her precious daughter. Perhaps a stepping stone, or an offering to the owner of this estate. Regardless of the process, this person has one final goal in mind, and that was to become Heavenly Flame's wife. I'm not like you. Guya pulls herself up after much struggle, that face a tinge of green and white. I really love Heavenly. I love him with my all. That's why I will also love Ling Yan, because he likes her too. Meanwhile first you planted your daughter here, and now you're trying to use your daughter's connection to climb into the monarch's bed. Am I not correct? The little pipsqueak devil 3, crossing her arms around the chest, Bai Yin forms a playful smirk. I will tell Heavenly everything that you said, from the love that you have for him, to the thoughts you have about us. I will list it in full detail, so don't you fret. You, Guya's face changed slightly after that threat. The reason why she has been able to accompany Heavenly was because she's elegant and polite, never causing the man to feel disgust towards herself. If Bai Yin does reveal what she said, then perhaps she wouldn't be able to stay beside Heavenly anymore. That's something this conceited woman could never confront. Miss. Guya took a deep breath before speaking after suppressing that anger. Why are you inviting a snub on yourself? After all, I've been keeping the monarch company for years by this point. Let's say he does believe your story, what then? You expect him to punish me or something. All it would do is make you appear petty and expose your true face. Is that so? Bai Yin lazily leans in against the tree next to herself, those eyes reflecting a strong dismissive light. Then I would really like to know if this Heavenly is really that foolish. Almost immediately, Guya's complexion darkened tremendously after that last comment. If at first she just didn't like the demon queen, then now she's at the point of disgust. In her mind, Heavenly was the greatest hero in all the worlds. She won't tolerate any of such insults. In that case, don't blame me for not warning you. Guya finally turned around after leaving that statement. However, the person behind her back had other ideas in mind when the voice came again. It's you who came to make trouble for me, and now the one who wants to leave is you. When did I become such a pushover? Pulling herself off from the tree, Bai Yan's menacing grin gave off an incredible sense of tension in the air. Guya realized she's been careless now, wanting to make some more excuse on her part. The lady didn't get to react in time, before getting punched into the chest again with massive force that sent her flying into the sky and disappearing across the horizon. Just like that, the pest was gone with peace returning to this garden. Sweetie, let's go back inside. Bai Yin slowly picks up her daughter after venting some of her annoyance. We can take a nap together. Gu Manor. Senior Gu Lao was just in the middle of taking a stroll through the courtyard when he suddenly noticed a shadow covering his line of sight from above. Looking up at this oddity, the old Gramps became absolutely shocked at the figure crashing down at himself. Dodging at the last split second, Gu Lao somehow manages to sidestep the misfortune. However, as soon as he got a better look at who this strange projectile was, his flicker of cheekiness at dodging deflated and evolved into a burning rage. Miss, who hurt you? He quickly reached out to help the lady up. In light of the pain, Guya didn't suffer any serious injuries, with mostly the pain being the major factor. She's having trouble breathing, but would recover. Ji-song 1. I'm fine, Gu Lao. She smiled bitterly after getting pulled up, her eyes filled with sorrow. I reaped these injuries upon myself. Isn't it? I only didn't want that woman to use Ling Yan for her own schemes in the name of being the child's mother. Who could have guessed such a shameless person would openly attack me, without fear of retribution? It's that woman who's responsible? Gu Lao flared with resentment, his eyes poisonous like a snake. Guya bites her lip. I'll fix this on my own, Gu Lao. You don't have to step in. Miss, even at a time like this you still refuse to let me get involved? Gu Lao angrily roars. Those people have already stomped on your head. How can you bear with it? I really don't know what you are afraid of, milady. No one will know or threaten you again if I simply remove them from the picture. Guya hung her head even more. Gu Lao, it's not like you don't know the monarch's personality. I do not want you to die for me. This matter must be solved using other means. Don't worry. I will find a way. Trust in my ability. Having said that, the injured woman pulls herself forward at the exit, that figure unstable and frail from the rear. Murdering has never been Guya's way of dealing with obstacles. In the past she used her wits to overcome the hurdles, and into the future she would continue to do the same. That's how she's been able to stay by Heavenly's side for so long, while others were eventually dismissed due to their tainted ways. In the backyard of the Monarch Manor, Di Ling Yan was bored and dragging her little feet through the stream when she overheard a voice from the back. Who are you? Turning around out of curiosity, Di Ling Yan quickly landed her sight upon a palish little girl who's around 5 to 6 years old, standing under the moonlight. Though the other child had a delicate contour that would be considered a beauty in the making, but that morbid complexion ruined all of her gift in making her appear weak and sickly. Who are you? Di Ling Yen returns the same question, her eyes shining with glee. I have been here for a few days already. Why haven't I met you before, sister? The little girl blushed for no reason and timidly answered. My grandfather usually won't let me out of my room, because I can't take the sunlight. That's why I snuck out tonight. But I know pretty much everyone in the Monarch Manor. How come I never seen you before? Well, that's simple. I only came here a few days ago at the invitation of Grandpapa. My name is Di Ling Yen. Who's your grandfather? Maybe it's the big smile of the pipsqueak, or it's the kindness shown in that voice. But the morbid-looking girl actually fell into a trance for a moment, pursing her lip. My grandfather is the first elder of the Monarch Manor. His name is Ji Sky. I'm his granddaughter Ji Song. Ji Sky. Ji Song. The pipsqueak fell into a state of shock. The name, why is it so weird? Sister, are you not well? My mother is a master alchemist. She can definitely help by examining you. Di Ling Yin blinks her well-behaving eyes and pulled at Song's hand like they're already good friends. Song shook her head. My grandfather is a master alchemist as well, but even he is helpless against my condition. There's no way to help. Sister, can you come with me anyways? Di Ling Yin pleads without giving up. You are Grandpapa's people. I want to repay him for helping me. I'm sure my mother can do something. Maybe she will find a way, please. Perhaps it's the clean light in those eyes. But Ji Song's heart didn't have the will to reject the request. Nodding in an almost dazed-like fashion, this morbid girl doesn't struggle and gets dragged away despite being the older child. Ji Song too. Sister. Di Ling Yin couldn't control her happiness as they strode through the winding corridors. Mother said children should be children. I always want to smile because that will make everyone else happy too. Why don't you smile too? Smile? Song hung her own head dejectedly. Ever since her parents died in the last civil strife of the heavenly domain, this poor child has never known what it meant to be happy or to smile. That's why laughter was something akin to a far-off emotion. Sister. The pipsqueak suddenly slows down to meet Song's eyes. Can you smile for me, please? Ji Song gently pursed her lips, unsure what to do aside from giving it a try. Unfortunately, her effort ended up looking forced and awkward. Even so, that's enough to satiate the pipsqueak's demand apparently. Sister's smile is very beautiful. Di Ling Yin cheers with arms waving up into the air. I like it so much. Looking surprised by the praise of her own smile, Song sounded unsure. Are you not afraid of me being a bad person? Of course not. Your eyes are clean, so I'm not afraid. Di Ling Yin doesn't even need to think, and instantly replied with her reasoning. But before the pipsqueak could say more, she noticed the important person they've been looking for. Mother. Without hesitation, she led Song over in a dash and threw herself into those welcoming arms, that little head buried in the woman's body. Looking at such a harmonious scene, Ji Song showed envy in her eyes since she's never experienced maternal love. After their small reunion, Bai Yin gently caresses her own daughter's hair, before looking over to the extra child present. In a flash, the demon queen's gaze narrowed into a slit, due to what she discovered. Di Ling Yin naturally didn't notice the strangeness in her own mother's behavior. Mother, the big sister over there is sick. Can you help treat her? Raising an arcing smile at the request. Sweetie, you go play by yourself first. Mother here will give your friend there a diagnosis. Okay. Giggling with delight, the pipsqueak jumps off of those arms and ran back over to her newfound friend's side. Sister, you can be assured, my mother will definitely find a treatment for you. Once you do, we can both go play in the sun. That said, the pipsqueak went ahead to give the other side a big hearty hug, as a mean to cheer her on before running off. Originally Song's heart felt very nervous at having someone diagnose herself, but that jiggling voice of Di Ling Yan's vocal cord seems to have some sort of magic in there. Without know why, she felt at peace and got a boost of courage as well. Mrs. D. She timidly addresses Bai Yin after they are left alone. The child doesn't know the demon queen's real name, so calling her Mrs. D wasn't wrong, since the pipsqueak's surname was indeed D. Your illness, I can cure it. Bai Yin lays down the bomb with that faint smile of hers. Though it's a small matter in the woman's view, This news rocked the sick girl to the core, due to the amount of hope it carried. She said, "My illness can be cured?" Clenching that weak little hand, Song trembled all over due to the surging emotion coming out from within. She's long suppressed her desire for a better life, and now the path was laid before herself with the chance for more. Bai Yin knew her words were going to need a moment to settle down, so she waited before continuing. "I'll save you, but on one condition." From excitement came nervousness for Song following that next sentence, forcing her unstable heart to slow down so she could think properly. "That is? I want you to follow my daughter from then on afterwards." That brought a brief period of silence to the courtyard, due to the hesitation swirling inside the child's brain. Gritting her teeth after coming to a decision. "Can you really cure me?" Ji-song 3. Bai Yin lazily stretches her body before leaning in against the chair behind herself. "I got 80% certainty of curing your condition. If I do, you will stay by Ling Yan's side. Of course, if I fail, then this condition naturally absolves, and you are free to do as you please." Pausing to meet the child's uneasy gaze. "And the 80% is based upon the missing ingredient under my possession. I lack 2 important key material. If you can secure the 2 items for me, then it's 100% certainty." In other words, she does not have full hope because the Demon Queen doesn't know if she could find the last 2 items for the medicine. Otherwise, there's not an ounce of risk or problem with the method. Ji-song remains uncertain. "Mrs. D, do you know what caused my body to behave this way?" "Poison, a very serious and lethal poison at that. As for your pale complexion, that's to do with your lack of interaction with the sun, causing your skin to look ghostly white. I'm sure you've heard of it from others. The sun will increase the severity of the toxin in your body and reduce your lifespan. That's why you've been kept in the dark and became this unhealthy state." Bai Yin casually states the details down. Ji-song's uncertainty gradually faded after the woman hits a bullseye. It's exactly as you say, Mrs. D. Several years ago, the Monarch Manor suffered a huge unrest by the rebels in the domain. As a result, my parents died in the final battle. My grandfather too. He was in the middle of making a breakthrough at the time, and had to abort his attempt in order to save me. If not for grandfather, I would have died back then as well. On that occasion, the losses suffered by the Monarch Manor was immense. Not only did the child's grandfather lost the rare opportunity to make a breakthrough into a divine lord and become a monarch in his own right, he's now stuck at his current level and wouldn't know when the next opportunity would come around. And then there's the elders who followed heavenly from the beginning. They've all died during that unrest. If not for the surviving senior himself recreating the Elder Council, this entire place would have fallen into ruins already. It's also the reason for them in coming up with the idea of bringing heavenly back. Their forces were drastically weakened and required their lieges return lest the other domains invade. As for Ji-song herself, she survived but not before being poisoned by a toxin called Soul Bane. Like the name implies, this vile concoction slowly devours the host's soul if she ever comes into contact with the sun. The more sunlight she takes in, the faster she dies. Without a cure, the grandfather of the child could only lock her up inside a dark room in order to keep her alive. "As long as I can find a soul fruit and a phoenix feather, then I can save you. However, the feather must be from a phoenix above the demi-divine lord. Demi-divine lords are rare to begin with, let alone a phoenix that's strong. Even in the demon realm, there's only a few who even qualifies for that standard, not to mention a specific species. Then there's the soul fruit. Not only does the fruit grows in extreme cold terrain, it's a plant that bears fruit once in a millennium. Assuming the timing was right, and you could live to that specific time period, the fruit's aroma would draw in droves of wild animals to its spot for feeding." Ji-song wanted to say something then despite the hurdle, but her voice was cut off by a frantic sound from the side in that moment. "Miss Song, I finally found you." A maid ran over breathlessly, gasping for air with an anxious face. "How can you run around without telling anyone? What if something happens to you, milady? If you do, then your grandfather will beat the lowly eye to death." Whatever Song wanted to say then evaporated at the sight of her personal maid. Pursing those lips, she looks troubled and tied. The Cure 1. Just think of that dark cold room where light could not reach. Song's body would stiffen a little and cause a sad mood to hover above the head. Mrs. D. The maid quickly greeted Bai Yen after seeing who was also present. You take her back, Bai Yen mildly says. Ji Song, think about what I said before. If you can get the soul fruit and phoenix feather, then come to me. Song nodded without adding anything more and left with the maid. But before long, the two were met with a frantic old man running over from the front. Grandfather. Song's voice was crisp and soft at the sight of that silver-haired senior. Why are you running around again? Ji Sky smiled bitterly and shook his head. However, right as he wanted to scold his granddaughter some more, he immediately thought of the sort of life she's experienced over the years and deflated, making a guilty expression on her little face. Grandfather, I'm sorry for making you worry, I'm sorry. Just don't run around alone anymore. Wait for grandfather to find a way to cure your body first. By then you can go anywhere you like. Put up with this for now, okay? Ji Sky sighed helplessly as he caressed the child's head. This girl is only 5 years old, but she's been suffering since birth. And now I can't even let her see the sun. Otherwise the poison will spread even faster. I'm such a failure as a father and grandfather. If it wasn't for me insisting on making a breakthrough that year, those enemies would never dare to attack, and my son and daughter-in-law wouldn't have died either. This suffering never should have fallen on a child this young. Grandfather, do you have a feather from a demi-divine Lord Phoenix? And do you have something called a soul fruit? Ji Song grasped onto that doting old hand and asked with hopeful eyes. What are you asking those for? I want those things, grandfather. Will you help me find them? Over the years, because of guilt, this old grandfather would basically give anything this child asks for. That's why she would make this request so suddenly, and without any preparation. Phoenix feather. I do, it's a memento I got from a phoenix that I saved in the past. The phoenix said I can use it to ask for a favor if I ever need it. When speaking of the past, a sorrowful tone could clearly be felt in the old senior's tongue. Not picking up on her elder's mood, Song jumped with glee instead. So what happened to the phoenix? It's dead. It died during one of the wars between the domains. I was still young back then, so I had a strong impression. That's why he kept the feather as a memento, and unwilling to throw it away. But since his granddaughter wants it, he's of course going to give her. In fact, he would even pluck the stars or moon out of the sky if the child asked for it. That's how much he cares for this granddaughter. Sparkling with light in the eyes after confirming the first item. Then do you have a soul fruit? Grandfather, I want a soul fruit too. This, Ji Sky frowned since it would be a waste to ruin such a precious fruit. However, he couldn't bear to disappoint that rare glowing face on his granddaughter. Song, I will have my men go look for the soul fruit, all right? I'm sure the domain will have one somewhere. The Cure 2, okay. Song's mouth twitched awkwardly in her attempt to smile. Sadly, the child's never been one to show happiness, so it only appeared weird and forced. But not everyone would find this to be bad. For Ji Sky, the senior elder of this manor, he's absolutely overjoyed at the sight. Song you. Grandfather, I'm going to go back for rest. When you find the fruit and feather, bring it to me right away, okay? That said, the awkward smile promptly disappeared from her face before turning away with the maid in tow. Gazing at the small figure moving further and further away, Ji Sky also retracts his gaze and mused over the interaction. Someone come and pass on my order. Go scour the domain for a soul fruit. I'm willing to offer whoever has it a single request from me as the price for the exchange. This promise will always stand as long as it's within my means. The attendants who followed him knew how much the elder doted on the grandchild, so it came as no surprise. Cusping their fist, the bunch quickly dispersed to carry out the command of declaring the quest. Heavenly Domain, atop of a mountain in the far north. Fourth Elder, are you sure this is the place? Staring into the distance with those piercing eyes, Heavenly asks the old man next to himself. I'm certain, Monarch, there's no mistake. Fourth Elder replies. All right, we're going in right away to cut down the time here. For some unknown reason, Heavenly simply doesn't want to waste time in this place, because he's feeling unsettled inside. Ling Yan. What if something happens to that little child when I'm not around? Meanwhile, at the same time, Guya had just finished listening to the report from her spies inside the manor, standing up with shock in her eyes. You mean First Elder is looking for a soul fruit everywhere? What does he want with that item? A soul fruit had no great use for humans, but it's a great enhancing product for demonic beasts to increase their toughness and spiritual strength. Miss, it's said that Ms. Song wants the fruit for herself. That's why First Elder is searching for it everywhere. If we find the soul fruit and offer it. The spy carefully gazes upward at his mistress for signs of what to say. Ji Song. How I envy her. She has such a power and influential grandfather that loves her so dearly. Meanwhile, I have no family left aside from Gu Lao keeping me company. Where is Gu Lao now? Guya thinly presses her lips and asked. Milady, Senior Gu Lao has gone out earlier today. He hasn't returned yet, nor do we know his whereabout. Out. Guya got quiet without any indication of what's going through her mind. I understand you can go back down first. When Gu Lao comes back, tell him to come see me immediately. And here I was thinking about on how to get that woman out of Monarch Manor. To think the opportunity would come so quickly. The Cure 3. No matter what happens, I won't let such a misbehaving woman stay in the monarch's home. I won't allow any threaten myself and my status as the next mistress. As the moon fell over the West Mountains, Gu Lao's white robe finally reappears in the Gu Manor. Gu Lao, where have you been? Guya couldn't help but raise a smile at the only person whom she considers a family member. However, instead of greeting the lady with a smile of his own, the old senior instead flashed a flicker of panic in the bottom of those old eyes. Naturally, this behavior wouldn't escape the lady who's known this Gramps for so long. Immediately, a sinking feeling gripped Guya's heart. Milady. Gu Lao clears his throat with a dry laugh to hide his inner guilt. Gu Lao, we have been together for so many years, you believe I wouldn't notice? I told you, I have other ways to get rid of them. You don't have to take the risk, understand? Guya angrily reprimands him. Truth was, she's not worried about Bai Yan or Di Lingyan's safety at all. After all, those two has nothing to do with herself. It's the danger of carrying about such a mission. Without doubt, Heavenly was bound to find out the truth eventually. By then, not even she could save Gu Lao from the man's wrath. Gu Lao's mood hit rock bottom. Musing for a moment, he faces the lady as he spoke with a strong determination. Miss, to me, you're no different than my own granddaughter, and I would do anything to remove the threat for you. Guya's body stiffened while her clenched fist loosened. In that moment, she felt helplessly weak. Gu Lao, I know you are doing it for my sake, but I know there are other ways to drive that woman out. We only need to unite with First Elder to do that. Frowning in his old face. First Elder? How can that old guy help us? He's stubborn and a one-sided rock. How can we get him to listen? Ji Sky was known to be upright and loyal to the monarch. Unless the matter threatens Heavenly himself, it's absolutely impossible to make that old fella to move on their behalf. Guya smiled with her teeth showing at the reasonable doubt from her elder. Did you forget he has a weakness? We can use Ji Song for our goals. According to the spies we have inside the manor, the First Elder is currently searching everywhere for a soul fruit, at the bequest of that sickly lass. As it so happens, I happen to have one in my possession. Once I hand it over, he will answer one of my requests. Gu Lao almost gasped at the news. Going quiet for a brief moment, his old voice sounded hoarse and excited. Then I won't move against those two as you wish, milady. But if this plan fails, I will make sure that pair pay for getting in your way. No one can take what's yours away. This would be the last concession. If the plan blunders like before, he would begin his plot of murdering those two. That's his desire and conviction. For some reason, Guya did not object to the last bit from the old senior, despite her constant preaching of not using murder to get her ways. Perhaps it's impatient at the repeated failure? Or perhaps she's just that confident. Regardless, one thing's certain, she's afraid of Bai Yin meeting Heavenly in person. The woman here knows herself better than anyone. Her charms are nowhere up to par of the Demon Queen. Inside the Monarch Manor, Elder Council's residence, Ji Sky sat quietly on his master chair with a face that could strangle those beneath himself. These useless things. It's already been several days. Why haven't they found the soul fruit yet? If this causes my granddaughter to be unhappy, then they can't blame me for taking drastic measures. The cure for. Underneath, the guards shuddered nervously with their heads hanging down. They're afraid of drawing the ire of the senior, for they know how precious Ji-song was to the first elder. Elder Sky, Miss Guya is seeking an audience. She claims to have a soul fruit. It's then a frantic maid charged into the hall to report this, and broke the oppressive mood. Seriously? Ji-Sky flew up from his chair, and ran over to grasp the maid's shoulder. Hurry and let her in. Yes. The maid retreated, and returned in mere moments with the lady in blue. Miss Guya, do you really have the soul fruit? He bluntly asks this due to his mind being occupied with his granddaughter's awkward smile. Smiling on the face, there's a peculiar flavor in the way Guya swayed herself before the senior. Of course, Elder Sky. I would never deceive you. I'll let you be the judge by seeing it for yourself. After the exchange, she waved her sleeve and summoned a red container from the storage ring, and hands it to the nearest maid. Receiving the box in the most careful manner, his motion looked like someone holding a precious treasure. It's really the soul fruit. Someone sent this to my granddaughter along with the phoenix feather. He only needs a glance after opening the lid to ascertain its authenticity, so he's very happy right now, which instantly causes his voice to lighten up into a very friendly fashion. Miss Guya, you've done me a great favor. Now tell me what you wish. If it's within my means, then I will grant it with all my power. Guya pursed her lips and slightly lowered her eyes then. Elder Sky, there's something I want to say, but it's difficult. Difficult? Ji Sky chuckled at that word, and made an amused glance at the lady. Miss Guya, if you are hoping I can help you pair with the monarch, then I'm sorry. That is beyond my means. No one in the monarch manor is capable of dictating his marriage. No, that's not it. Guya immediately forms a bitter face. Elder Sky, I know all of you are still wary and suspicious of me, because of me eavesdropping on your conversations about bring the monarch back. Unfazed by that remark, the senior continues to make a warm face. My words are my oath. It doesn't matter who you are. You only need to make your request. You're misunderstanding my meaning, Elder. I mean, even if I like Heavenly, I would never try to force him, nor do anything to hurt him. That day I was too anxious and didn't think about my actions. I only hope you and the other elders won't blame me. And she pauses for a second. I really do like that Ling Yan, that young adorable lass. Knowing she's being used by her own mother brings great pain to my heart. Ji Sky frowned. What do you mean by that? I've talked to her mother before. Guya forms a troubled face like she's deliberating between speaking the truth or not. That woman admitted to me herself that she's using the child as a way to get into the monarch's bed. I cannot, and would not try to control Heavenly, but I can't stand such a vile personal being allowed to get near the monarch in such a fashion. Ji Sky's face sank suddenly, his voice deep and authoritative. Is that true? She admitted it herself. The cure 5. Yes, she admitted it herself. I said I would tell the monarch what she said also. But that woman said she's not afraid, and that even if I did, she wouldn't admit it. Elder Sky, I'm only coming to you because I'm out of options, and if I go to the other elders, they wouldn't believe me. Guya's expression right now showed helplessness and pain. Matched that with the sobbing voice. It's the perfect guise to sell her story. Sure enough, Ji Sky's face got darker and darker following her every word. See this? Guya presses hard to seal the deal. Have you not wondered why Ling Yan's mother would find her way here so quickly after the child came to the manor? It's not like Heavenly, and all of you didn't try to look for the woman before, right? I suspect. Both of them appeared so suddenly and without any indication. It's possible the encounter was premeditated from the very start. It's one thing for Ling Yan. She's only 2 years old, so she wouldn't know better. Plus the monarch dotes on her very much. Elder Sky, I know what I'm saying is a grim theory, but you must do something about that woman. At the very least drive her away so Ling Yin wouldn't be corrupted by such a scheming mother. Guya implored the senior, trying hard to make her point stand. She really doesn't like the pipsqueak, but out of heavenly sake she's willing to compromise. Besides, this conceited woman had a lot of confidence in herself that she could break down that temperament and mold it to her liking. Ji-Sky didn't completely fall for the story, yet in the way he narrowed in his eyes at the other person, which promptly roused a flustered face as a result. After a long while of this uncomfortable silence, "Miss Guya, I will investigate this matter, so go back for now. If what you say is true about her character, then I will drive her away." The reply was within her expectations. There are still some days before Heavenly returns, so this would be the first step in her grand plan. In that case, I won't say much more. After all, we are all here in service of the monarch and wouldn't want such a misbehaving woman nearby. However, there's one more thing I like Elder Sky to help me with. What's the matter? I've made it known that I very much like Ling Yin, that young lass. Would it be possible for me to move to the yard next to her? Don't worry, you can rest assured I won't do anything. That child is so adorable and cute. I only want to keep an eye out for her safety in case her mother tries anything. Ji-Sky still felt skeptical of the woman's excuse, but nodded anyways. He's seen it with his own eyes how much she loves Heavenly, so he's not worried about Guya trying anything ill towards those close to the monarch. I can let you move to her side yard, but that's only for the next few days until the monarch returns. Once he's back, you're leaving, understood? Guya's heart cracked with joy. Thank you, Elder. You don't have to rush to thank me so quickly. If in the meantime anything happens in the manor, I will immediately turn my suspicion towards you. Understand? Ji-Sky's tone was heavy and stern, showing he meant what he said and as warning. Guya's lip twitched without surprise. Elder Sky, please be at ease, I won't do anything. You know, I can't stand to see the monarch sad. Naturally, that means I won't even think about doing anything to those close to him. Of course, the exception would be that despicable mother of Ling Yan's. Heavenly hasn't met that woman yet. I can still make it if I shoo her out of the estate before he returns. The Cure 6. Unbeknownst to everyone in the heavenly domain, there's in fact a room devoid of sunlight in the Monarch Manor. Aside from the vent hole coming through the entrance door, this place held a suffocating atmosphere to those unused to it. Truly a compound normally reserved for the worst of criminals. However, that was not the case here. In fact, it's Ji-Song's personal bedroom, the beloved granddaughter of Elder Sky, who holds immeasurable power and authority within this estate. At this moment, Song had her body curled up into a fetal position atop of her bed, those limbs shivering from the cold and darkness. Not even she knows how long this painful experience would continue, nor does she know when the light would arrive in her life. Suddenly, the door squealed due to the metal hinges being swung open, and in came two young maids with a box in each of their hands. Miss Song, your grandfather Elder Sky tasked us to bring you these. It's the phoenix feather and soul fruit you requested. Grandfather? Taken aback at the grand news, she gradually shifted her gaze down to the two boxes in front of herself, with hope beaming out of those eyes. Where's my grandfather? She asks after ordering them to leave it on the table. Oh, Elder Sky is still at the council hall. I'm going to see grandfather, you two don't have to follow me. Song carefully wraps the two boxes around her arm, while pressing down her inner excitement, so others won't grow suspicious. But miss, one of the maids frowned. Elder Sky said we must protect Miss Song. How can we just leave without permission? It's night right now, so there's no sun. Besides, I'm going to see my grandfather, not some random place. What are you so nervous for? Song glances at the maid with a reprimanding face. I'll come back once I see him. You stay here and wait for me. After saying this, the sickly and morbid-looking lass ignored the protesting maid in the rear and bolted out of the dark room. Of course, the two frantic maids wanted to give chase, but the repeated warning glares from Song sent them back in the end. Just as Song was about to reach Bai Yan's yard, an unexpected encounter occurred. With a touch on her shit from the back, she nearly jumped with fright and swung around. Thankfully, the face that came into sight wasn't some unfamiliar face, Rather, it's the pipsqueak herself. Ling Yan, how come it's you? She pursed her lips and asked in a state of shock, giggling with delight as she got closer to her friend. The pipsqueak gets all happy in the voice. Are you here to see my mother? Aha, said Song with a flesh tone on those cheeks. I found the phoenix feather and soul fruit like she instructed. She said that as long as I have these 2 ingredients, then I can be cured for sure. I didn't tell my grandfather though. I didn't want to give him false hope and disappoint him. That's why no one knows I'm here. Can you keep this a secret for now? Patting her chest in a I'm reliable manner, the pipsqueak cocks her head high in a proud manner. Of course, I can keep a secret. I'm not like my brother who can be bought with a steam bun. The Cure 7. If there were one person in this world who could save Ji Song, then that would have to be Bai Yen. This pipsqueak still has that much confidence in her own mother. Ji Song breathed a sigh of relief after hearing that. Then, I'll first go meet your mother. Wait, let's go together. Ling Yin smiled brilliantly as she took her friend's hand to lead the way. For Song herself, this would be the first time she's ever spent time with another female whom she could call friend. For that, her pale and stiff expression actually made a genuine smile for once, and not the awkward and weird-looking one she made before. It's nice to have friends. Ling Yan is my first friend. I will cherish this friendship for life. Unbeknownst to both of the little ones, a certain female had been hiding in wait behind the dark corner of the courtyard the entire time. Coming out after the 2 tiny figures had left, Guya slowly strode out into the moonlight. I didn't think that Ling Yan's mother would go this far in order to cater up to the members of the monarch manor. Is she crazy? How does she have the confidence to claim being able to heal Ji Song's condition? This won't do. I cannot let this continue. That woman's strength is so low. There's no way she's capable of something like that. I better go inform Elder Sky of what's happening. If his granddaughter is killed by this, then he will punish everyone here, including myself, for merely being nearby. With that last thought in mind, Guya finally turned away to rush towards the council hall. She doesn't like Ji Song, who would write? Nobody likes to have a sick-looking lass hang around themselves all day, especially when the patient never even smiles. But no matter her dislike, the morbid-looking lass was still a member of the monarch manor. At the very least, she needs to take action, if not for Heavenly's sake, since they're still his people. What's more, such an opportunity to banish Bai Yen and her daughter doesn't come often. This was her chance. Elder Sky, this isn't good. Something major has happened. This outburst instantly shattered the peace of the night here. Ji Sky came out the fastest after hearing this and showed a surprised face. Miss Guya, why did you come so late? What happened? It's your granddaughter Ji Song. Something has happened to her. The woman spits this out with clenched teeth. Going green at the news, the old senior reactively roared. What did you say? Something happened to my precious Song. You better explain what you mean. Otherwise I won't let you off the hook. That child was his lifeblood. Without her he would rather die at this point. Elder, it's that woman, Ling Yan's mother. In order to gain your favor, she's attempting to risk the young Mrs. Health, just so she could try healing Song's body. It's absolutely foolish. That person is so weak without an ounce of knowledge. How could she ever think of something this crazy? You must act right away. We could be talking in minutes or seconds before something irreversible occurs. The more she spoke, the sweatier on the forehead she became, thus reinforcing the urgency of the situation. I've met that lady earlier today, and she doesn't seem to be such a rash and foolish person. Perhaps we've made a misunderstanding, and that Song is only going there to play with Ling Yan? Elder Butterfly was the second to come out, and she wasn't so easily manipulated. That remark promptly made Guya appear even more anxious. Partly real and partly fake, since she doesn't want to miss out on this chance. There's no mistake. I overheard the conversation directly from Miss Song and Ling Yan. Elder Sky, you must go save your granddaughter right now. Otherwise she might really die at the hand of that person. By Ning 1. Boom! Ji Sky's momentum suddenly changed, causing the whole sky to become stormy in that instant. Not waiting for Guya to say more, he dashed towards the courtyard where Bai Yen was staying. Inside the room, Ji-song stood quietly there, as she watched the demon queen pour some sort of weird substance into a tub of water. Immediately, that clear warm liquid had turned into a faint green color that oozed with medicinal aroma. Mrs. D, will this be enough to save me? Bai Yin shook her head. It's merely the first step in the procedure. You will soak in this tub of potion I prepared for half an hour. During this time I will prepare the main elixir for you. Nodding in understanding, Song doesn't question the other side. For some unknown reason, she's convinced this person could help. Ling Yan, you go and rest first. The next process would be quite painful for the patient, so Bai Yin doesn't want her daughter to see it. Okay. The pipsqueak obediently complies and got up. I will come back and see you, mother, after I take a nap. With one final glance at her friend, the girl promptly left for her own room. Just like that, the procedure to cure Ji-song has begun. ZSSZZ. The first sensation the morbid girl felt was an intense sting across her whole body after dunking herself in that tub of potion. It's not extremely painful to the point where she couldn't endure, but it's stinging deep into her bones, which was incredible hard to withstand. It's so painful, like someone's poking needles into me. It hurts. If you want to recover, then put up with it. Just when Ji-song wanted to protest and complain, Bai Yin shuts her down with that remark. It's faint and unemotional, but those words came down like a bat and knocked any resentment away. That's right, I need to endure this if I want to get better. 5 years of endless darkness. I don't want to go back. This is nothing to me. I will get better. I won't submit to such a life. I will prevail. Growing stronger and stronger in her mind, a powerful determination filled the morbid girl's eye as she recalled the painful past of her childhood. Those memories weren't painful in the physical sense, but on a spiritual level. Biting down on her lip until it bled, she wants to use pain to combat pain in this case. It's the only means she knows, because it's not the first time she's hurt herself in such a fashion after caving into her own loneliness in the past. Slightly startled by the method used by the lass, Bai Yin raises an eyebrow in surprise at the determination. She was ready to take actions if Song intended to give up so easily, so her hands were already about to reach out. However, that precaution was unnecessary, it seems. This child must have suffered a lot in the few years she's lived on this world. Not many could think of using pain to counter pain. Very well. If you are determined to get better, then I will do everything within my means to save you. Taking out a small cauldron from her storage ring, Bai Yin also begins her effort of refining the final medicine using her soul fire. Bai Ning too. Due to the intense concentration required for the brew, Bai Yan's senses have mostly closed itself off and shielded herself from the rest of the world. All she knew was the cauldron before herself, the flame, and the timing of when to pull out the elixir. So whatever ruckus that's happening outside in the courtyard, she's unaware nor had the energy to care. Steaming with a mighty air above the group as they marched, they wasted no time in rushing through the winding corridors for the expected destination. What are you all planning to do? Di Ling Yan had wanted to return to her room, then when she encountered this group in the open. She may be small, but she's no timid coward. Miss Ling Yan. Elder Butterfly saw who it was and immediately stepped forward to speak. Did Song happen to come by earlier? Is she looking for your mother for treatment? Gently pursing her lips, the pipsqueak grew unhappy at the aggressive air of this bunch. Are you going to make trouble for my mother? Big Sister Song said she didn't want this matter to be known to anyone. Why would they know about this? And the way they marched over here, they're clearly very upset. Ling Yan. Guya also came out from the rear, her face still showing that elegant smile. I know your mother wants to be the monarch's wife, but using Song's health as a mean to get close to everyone is not right. That girl is innocent and naive. She doesn't know the dangers involved with what's involved. And that woman, using such low trickery, is despicable. She doesn't deserve to be your mother either. You must awaken from the illusion. Ling Yan would never allow anyone to insult her mother. Not now, not ever. Without another word, she pushed Butterfly aside and pounced at the insufferable woman and bit down at that arm. Ah! Guya's screams resonated with pain due to the sting. She did not expect the pipsqueak to have such speed. much less turning into a mad dog and biting herself on the arm. It is you, this bad auntie again. First it's you coming to make trouble for my mother, then now you're framing her. My mother is the best woman in the world, and also the one who loves me the most. I won't allow you to say anything bad about her. All red in the face, the pipsqueak stubbornly gnaws at that arm while glaring at the crowd. Today none of you can go bother Big Sister Song. G-Sky's gaze grew grim, due to the child's stubbornness. If it were someone else who got in his way, then he would have rid himself of this problem at first sight. However, this was Di Ling Yan, the girl beloved by Heavenly, their lord and master. Her status was equivalent to the young lady of this house. There's no way he could hurt her less he's ready for the aftermath. But at the very thought of Song's safety, the grandfather's mood would deteriorate once again, with irritation apparent in those eyes. Trying hard to maintain a gentle voice in his persuasion. Miss Ling Yan, I know my granddaughter's illness better than anyone. Even if your mother is able to save her, why sneak around without letting anyone know? If there is even a tiny mishap during the treatment, the outcome would be Song's death. So please move aside and let us inside. Unbending in her determination, the pipsqueak shows off why she's the daughter of her parents. I know you are Big Sister's grandfather, but I want to ask before you go any further. If Big Sister is willing to trust in my mother, then why can't you trust in Big Sister's decision? Or do you have that little trust in her? Just because you can't do something doesn't mean my mother can't. G-Sky's face frowned. Song's only a child, she still doesn't know anything yet. Please step aside, Miss Ling Yan. I will not let you disturb mother. And grandpapa also said I am the little lady of the Monarch Manor. If you force your way over me, then that's equivalent to treason. Do all of you really want to test that? By Ning 3. The little pipsqueak's appearance began to reveal a sense of dominance after her declaration. This face, it's exactly like her mother's when Bai Yen decides on doing something. Of course, that's only if you ignore her childlike voice, then it could really scare some of these people. Sadly, that's not the case and only made a ripple on the surface. Ling Yan. Guya stroked her painful arm as she stared at the child. You bad woman, you shut up. The pipsqueak roars instead of simply yelling. Don't think I don't know everything is orchestrated by you. I will let father and big brother know of this when they come. They will definitely make you pay. Anyone who picks on mother are bad. Father and big brother will definitely do something about this once they find out. That's enough. G-Sky has completely lost patience. Miss Ling Yan, we are willing to show you respect out of the monarch's sake, but this matter is about my granddaughter's life. If I somehow offend you for trying to save my own grandchild, then I'm willing to bear the consequences once the monarch returns. Now move aside. Shuddering inside after that outburst from Elder Sky, Butterfly hurries to grab hold of the pipsqueak to bring the child behind herself for protection. Elder, Ling Yan is only a child. I know, you do not need to remind me, Elder Butterfly, I won't hurt her. G-Sky gradually closes his eyes as if to come to terms with what he's going to happen. Someone come, restrain the young miss here. Remember not to hurt her. This little girl is now the monarch's treasure. How can I ever think about hurting her? But not harming her is one thing. No one can stop me from saving my own grandchild. If the monarch wishes to punish me afterwards, then so be it. I'm willing to take it. Yes, Elder. Several guards stepped forward and began to grab at the pipsqueak's arm. Di Ling Yan saw this and grew frightened, of course. She was absolutely tiny compared to these men, and whatever flailing and struggle she attempted after being held was futile. She may be a fox demon, but a 2-year-old child remains a child. What power does she have? None, that's the answer, she has none. Without surprise, the scuffle eventually left a bruise mark on the baby girl's tender arm, after one of the guards got careless. Against that picture, Guya was undoubtedly the most delighted. She was honestly afraid these people would be too afraid to restrain the lass, and let this opportunity slip. You bunch of baddies, let me go right this instant. My father and big brother will not forgive you for this. Di Ling Yan had anger in those eyes. I will tell grandpapa that you are bullying me. I won't let you do this. G-Sky didn't say more as he moved past the child. He knows that was no idle threat, He's going to pay a heavy price for this later on. You can't bother mother. You can't hurt mother. Di Lingyan cries even harder after being dismissed. Shockingly, something miraculous occurred at this moment when the girl's mood hits a new low. Her whole body began to heat up, searing hot even until the guards restraining her felt increasingly more uncomfortable. Wah! Father, big brother, grandmother. Hurry and come help mother. They're going to pick on mother. If at first the heat coming off of the pipsqueak was still bearable, then right now she's a flaming torch, burning all those hands until they're making some seriously ugly faces. Ling Yan. It's then when the situation was about to hit critical. A surprised and familiar voice cuts in from the sky. Raising her head at the source, the pipsqueak also stops crying because she recognized that note. Grandma, oh. Breaking free from those hands that were already wanting to let go, the baby girl threw herself into the woman's arm, who had already descended to the ground at lightning speed. Grandma, how come you are here? Quick, you must stop these baddies. They want to pick on mother. They want to hurt her. By Ning 4. Dressed in white, those enchanting features of the grandmother shared a close resemblance with Bai Yen, the exception being that she's colder and prouder instead of the dominating type. Guya didn't like Bai Ning the second she lay eyes upon her. Without knowing why, the self-conceited lady radiated hostility that has never before seen to anyone. Naturally, Bai Ning also noticed the hostile gaze coming at herself from that woman. But instead of giving more attention to some random stranger she doesn't know or care about, the grandmother would rather appease the crying child in her arms. Ling Yan, take grandmother here to see your mother. Bai Ning loses the cold hardness in those eyes when saying this, replaced only by gentle kindness. Rubbing her weeping eyes, the pipsqueak stammers the response. But these baddies want to interrupt mother's treatment of big sister. They say mother is going to hurt big sister, and that she's only out to seduce grandpapa. The corner of Bai Ning's lip rose into a sarcastic smirk after hearing that outlandish claim, caressing the child's head so she would calm down and stop hiccuping. Since my granddaughter said none of you can go disturb my daughter, then none of you can go further. Lady! Elder Sky deepens the furrowing forehead, his voice cold and harsh. The sister mentioned by Miss Ling Yan is my own granddaughter. Her treatment will be decided by me, her own family. Madam, I ask that you not get involved and step aside. Casting a faint glance at the old senior who spoke. Your granddaughter's life is not of my concern, but my daughter's decision is. If my daughter wants to kill someone, then none can stop her. And if she wants to save someone, then none can interfere either. So, you better watch your tongue. I won't be told on what to do by anyone. Then you leave me no choice but to use force, said Elder Sky with a hint of disdain for that blind arrogance. You bunch go subdue Miss Ling Yan. I will deal with this, madam. The pipsqueak panicked, her little body curling up against Bai Ning's arm further, due to fear of being caught again. However, that concern was for naught. Forget about catching the pipsqueak. They don't even want to get near after being burned on the hands. Some of those burns were so intense that they're already starting to show bubbles on the skin. What are you guys doing? G Sky's complexion darkened into a black hole after seeing no movement from behind. Elder Miss Ling Yanxi. The guard captain timidly speaks where he got cut off by that menacing glare from the senior. Stop worrying about the consequences. I will bear all the blame if the monarch wishes to punish any of you. The poor guards all wanted to cry at that moment. Apparently their hesitation there got mistaken for fear of heavenly punishing them. Heck no. They're not afraid of being punished by their liege and master. Rather, it's the freakiness of the girl over there. Who in the world would suddenly get insanely hot like a burning torch? But fear was fear. They aren't going to ignore a direct order from Elder Sky. Inching forward like turtles, these poor men carefully surrounded the child. Miss Ling Yan, can you be good and stand to one side by yourself? We won't do anything, just stand over there, okay? Huffing a grunt with that little nose pointing high, Di Ling Yan pinches her lips into an adorable frown. You baddies are not allowed to hurt mother. I'm not afraid of you anymore with grandmother here. By Ning 5. These people bully me because I am small and cannot protect mother. But with grandmother here I'm no longer afraid. Bai Ning sneered at the ignorant fools that dare to circle them on this courtyard. She could tell aside from a select few here tonight, they're all relatively weak compared to herself. With a little flex of her strength, the proud woman instantly sent the less prepared of the mansion guards, shooting out in a bullet-like fashion, due to the torrent of wind she created. I'm not dead yet, who dares to bully my daughter and granddaughter? The woman's cool and prideful voice held those who remained standing in contempt. Ji Sky's expression grew increasingly grimmer at the situation. He doesn't want to drag this out, but he's got a keen eye. Whoever this person was, or if she's really the baby girl's family, this woman was no pushover based on the small attack she showed there. But as the old saying goes, panic only brings more mistakes, and mistakes only bring more mistakes. Without more thought, the old senior drew his sword and aimed it at the unwelcomed intruder. Grandma. Di Lingyan's face went white there as she saw the sword coming down, her tiny hands nervously grasping onto the woman's body. She had heard before that the strongest individual here in the domain was Elder Sky, second only to Grandpapa. Sure, the pipsqueak trusts in Bai Ning's ability, but there's going to be an unavoidable strand of worry once the fight breaks out. Miss Ling Yan. Out of everyone's expectation, Elder Butterfly reacted just as fast there, and with shocking speed. Coming before Bai Ning, this sole female elder plucked the pipsqueak right out of her grandmother's grasp to bring the child into her own arms for protection, thus removing any danger that might befall the girl during the scuffle. Bai Ning's expression grew very ugly, after having someone faster than herself here, and not being able to react in time. However, that heart immediately settled back down after seeing the concerned face of this butterfly. If there are others looking out for the girl, then she could concentrate on dealing with this old senior, who's clearly acting in a panic. Clang! An enormous force released into the air after their swords collided. The weaker ones couldn't take this, and immediately shot out into the air, whereas the unfortunate ones smashed into the ground or wall. Fortunately, the pipsqueak had the female elder protecting her, so she remains unhurt from the blast. But the cracked floorboards and overturned rubble told everyone how dangerous the area has become even if they're not directly fighting. Successful concoction 1. Inside the room. Bai Yin threw herself into refining the elixir, so she's still unaware of the battle outside. Boom! Suddenly, a very loud noise came out of the cauldron, as if something wants to break out of the container. Gradually retracting her focus as the flame slowly dwindled down from the palm, the demon queen awaits the lightning bolt that's to come from her efforts. Yet the expected electric might never came after several minutes. That surprised the woman as she frowned at the oddity. I see. It must be because this domain was created by Heavenly, so it doesn't have a world will. Otherwise there's no way my alchemic products wouldn't create a scene from the sky. Not dwelling on the issue since it's a good thing, Bai Yin removes the lid and gathered the elixir into a bottle for the child. The medicine is done, you can come out of the tub now. No reply came though. Furrowing that brow up, Bai Yin got closer to examine the girl. Only then does she realize Song had fallen unconscious from the stinging pain. Without delay, the demon queen sweeps the child up from the water and held her in those arms. Perhaps it's due to the relief of being free from the painful liquid, but Song's eye started to move so slightly right off the bat, until she eventually regained consciousness. Mrs. D. The little girl opened her mouth where a whisk of air infused into her lungs and brought a refreshing sensation. Is it a success? Bai Yin responded with a hum as confirmation. Take this elixir, and you will be healed. First glancing at the bottle presented to herself, then at Bai Yan's reassuring face, Song didn't hesitate in the slightest and chugged the fluid down in one full gulp. Instantly, a warm current circulated across her entire body, cleaning and removing every ounce of the toxin until her very soul felt refreshed. Then at the last second where she thought she's healed, something suddenly started to push itself out of her abdomen. Following a nauseating sensation of wanting to vomit, Song opened her mouth and cried out where a blop of black blood spat out of her throat. Mrs. D, I am healed now? The voice of Ji Songs trembled with excitement after realizing how good her body felt. She never thought this day would actually come, the day where she could go out in the sunlight. Yes, it's a success, but you're too weak due to your body never seeing the light. I have some more medicine to help improve your health. Take it, and you will eventually be like everyone else. As the old saying goes, if you're going to send someone off, then send them all the way. She's already removed the toxin. Might as well spend a little more to boost up her body's condition, so she could become a normal child. After all, Song's going to be her daughter's companion from now on. Bai Yin only hopes this girl won't let her down. Thank you. Song got so moved by the new bottle that's given to herself that she's barely able to stop herself from crying. Nevertheless, she did as told and drank the bitter medicine without objection. Successful concoction 2. If you really want to thank me, then take care of Ling Yin from now on. A shallow smile shows on Bai Yan's face after saying that. If from the start she only wanted to find a companion for her precious daughter, then the Demon Queen was now genuinely taken by this Song, who endured the full treatment she came up with. Others may not know this, but the level of pain involved could make even an adult cry and beg. Then, madam, what do I need to do now? Song pursed her delighted lips and asked. It's then when Bai Yin wanted to speak. A loud bang from the outside interrupts their conversation and caught both individuals' attention. In that moment, Bai Yan's face sank into a dark looming dagger, for she knows it couldn't be anything good. Song also fell into shock at the noise. Why does the energy signature feel so similar to grandfather's? Song, you come with me. As soon as she dropped this sentence down, the woman had already pushed the door open and walked outside. Due to panic, the now healed lass didn't dwell on the issue and hurried outside as well in order to catch up. The curtain to this battle has been drawn down by the deepening of the night. Trees destroyed, men sprawled along the ground and unconscious. This whole courtyard was a total mess. Naturally, Guya was no exception either. She's very pale in the face, the sign that she's affected to a degree from the recoiling force. As for Bai Ning, who's been fighting the elder, the prideful grandmother had fallen behind and left a deep mark on the ground with a trace of blood in the corner of those lips. Her eyes are growing increasingly more heavy while gazing at the foe, who obviously had the upper hand. Ji-Sky didn't fare so well either, of course, despite being strong. In his old eyes were shock and disbelief, for the old senior never expected to have someone be of match to himself. When did such a character appear in the domain? Grandma. The little pipsqueak breaks free from Butterfly's hold and quickly ran over to Bai Ning's side, her hands tightly wrapped around the woman with tears flowing out of those anger-filled eyes. You big baddie, you actually hurt my grandmother. I hate you. In response, Ji-Sky could only make a helpless bittersweet smile. For the safety of his granddaughter, he has no other choice in this matter. If there were other options, then he would have taken it. After all, this woman was the baby girl's grandmother. Miss Ling Yan, please forgive me. I also don't have a choice in this matter. If the two of you don't move aside, then it might be too late for me to save Song. So, I can only take matters into my own hands. For the sake of his granddaughter, he's willing to go to any lengths because Song's his life, his reason for living. It's bad enough that you are not willing to repay kindness with kindness after mother is willing to save big sister. But you are also listening to that bad woman's word and accusing mother of plotting to harm big sister. You also hurt grandmother. The pipsqueak's face grew increasingly redder due to the swelling anger. Big sister is such a good person. Why is her grandfather so foolish and senile? Ji-Sky's expression changed into a flush red as well, but not from anger. Rather, it's utter embarrassment. How could he not write? He's being pointed at the nose by a little girl right now and being scolded as foolish and senile. That's utterly shameful. Miss Ling Yan, you will understand me later. My precious Song is my life. I will not let anything harm her or take such risk. Therefore, I have no other option but to force my way through your impedance. Ji-Sky's momentum started to get more intense afterwards, until the whole sky darkened into a heavy oppressive gloom, like a storm's about to occur. Bai Ning knew what's coming and promptly wrapped the baby girl around herself for protection. her face still as proud and strong when confronting the old senior without an ounce of wavering. For some unknown reason, towards that calm and collected appearance of Bai Ning's, Guya, who instigated all this, got an indescribable sensation of anger swelling up inside of herself. This is clearly my first time seeing this woman. Why do I feel so much hatred towards her? It's even worse than the anger I felt towards that Bai Yan. Successful concoction 3. Grandfather. It's then a crisp and tender-sounding voice cuts through the night, thus breaking the powerful momentum gathered by Ji Sky, who was about ready to make his second assault. Shocked by the tiny figure that's racing towards himself, the old senior completely ignores Bai Yan, who's obviously walking in front of Song there. In his mind, there's only his granddaughter and nothing more. Song. In a flash, he disappears from the spot and reappears before the child to examine the girl, nervously pressing his hand against her shoulder. Are you all right? Are you feeling unwell? Ji Song did not get to answer at all there, before being blasted by this set of questions. Making a helpless face, the girl turns to Bai Yan for help. However, at this moment Bai Yan didn't have the time to worry about some grandfather who's overly protective of their granddaughter. Rather, she's also quite worried about the female protecting her own daughter. Bai Yan could see blood coming out of Bai Ning's lip. For that, she's absolutely infuriated. Who did it? Her voice was colder than the late-night wind, which caused the temperature around her to drop several degrees. Mother. Di Ling Yan pounced out of Bai Ning's arm then, and threw herself into the Bai Yan's instead, her eyes a teary red of sad, pitiful sorrow. It's big sister's grandfather. He hurt grandmother here. Bai Yan's face got quite scary there due to how cold it became in that moment, like some sort of storm was brewing in those eyes. It's so bad in fact that the atmosphere here had grown quiet and eerie. Ji Song's complexion instantly went white as well after hearing that outburst. Turning to her own grandfather, she purses her lip and asked with shock in the voice. Grandfather, why did you do it? Ji Sky couldn't bear to have such a look made towards himself. Hastening to turn away, he wanted to explain himself in a mutter, when Guya's voice inserted herself from the rear. Miss Song, don't blame your grandfather. He merely didn't want you to suffer any harm. Elder Sky knows Ling Yan's mother is only using you to get close to the monarch by using your health as leverage. He only wants what's best for you. It's all for your sake. Guya slightly frowned due to the protective attitude of the girl, aware of the sudden change in Song's complexion after her own explanation. Fortunately, you didn't let her treat you yet, otherwise your grandfather might have been too late to save you. Ji Sky was not deaf and promptly swept a cold gaze at the instigator of all this. He didn't say that Bai Yan wanted to use his granddaughter to get close to the monarch at all. It's just that. In this case, Bai Yan was a stranger. He doesn't know her ability or strength. How could he feel at ease letting such a person mess around with Song's body? No parent or elder could take such risks regardless of their background. As for Guya's skewed explanation, the old senior didn't bother to correct it. At a time like this, any further explanation would only make things worse. All that it matters to him was Song being safe and not taking that treatment. Song is good at everything except too trusting in people around herself. There's frost all over Bai Yan's aura after hearing the explanation. Turning to the patient girl, her voice got much colder than while they were in the room. Song, shouldn't you have your grandfather give me a proper explanation? I saved your life, yet he harmed my mother without accessing the situation or discerning what's right or wrong. Even though she understood that Ji Sky did it out of concern for Song's well-being, but everyone has their own moments of selfishness. In this regard, Bai Yan's moment would be about her family. The justification hardly matters anymore. If I had known that saving you would hurt my mother, I wouldn't have done it. That remark made Song extremely sad there. Looking at Bai Yan's distant gaze and the crying face of her one and only friend Ling Yan, the girl never felt so sad before. Successful concoction 4. One's her benefactor, and the other was her good friend whom she just met. Does it mean she's going to have to be hated by them from now on? That's not what she wants. Grandfather, why did you hurt Mrs. D's mother? Ji-song turns to her grandfather and demanded an answer with tears slowly forming along those clear blue eyes. You've always been like this whenever the matter involves me. You do not care whether it's right or wrong. You will always lose your reasoning and think it's the other person who wants to hurt me. Sulking and hiccuping in her voice. It's one thing that you keep me out of the light. That's even when there's no sun on those gloomy days outside. You also keep me from making any friends or communicate with others, only wanting to lock me up in that dark room all day. Your love for me, it's reached the point of obsession. Sometimes I would think it's better to simply live a short life than to continue on this trajectory of endless darkness. So what if I can't live for long? At least I would live. Grandfather, I know you're hurt inside after losing my parents, but this life, it's not living, it's torture, a cruel and painful nightmare. The girl's protesting cry hits the old senior like a hammer, punching and kicking at his heart till it hurts. Wanting to say something by opening his mouth, the old senior suddenly discovered he couldn't. Those words, they're stuck in his throat. Streaming with tears. Ling Yan is my only friend now, and Mrs. D is my benefactor, but because of you they will both hate me. Do you know how painful it is for me over the years? It's Mrs. D who brought hope into my life. I can now run around in the sun like everyone. I can finally leave that dark, damp room. When reaching the end, the girl's voice was huffing and trembling with emotions. It's the first time she met Ling Yan, but she also knew the friend was a reasonable person. For example, let's say if her grandfather had spoken politely, then he would have been let through. That much she's certain of. The fact that he didn't get through and got stopped must be because he lost control and got especially rude, like wanting to hurt Mrs. D. This could be proven by the way Ling Yan and her grandmother resisted the request. Ji Sky sadly faced his granddaughter after the reprimand. Did I not keep her from going out for her own safety? And all those that got to befriend her only wanted to lure her out to play, so how could I not be nervous? But in the end, my granddaughter didn't understand me at all. What did you say? Elder Butterfly wasn't as invested as her peer, so her ears weren't deaf to a specific detail. First making a shocked face, the female elder quickly went up to examine Song with her shaky voice. You said you can go outside in the sun? Ji Song formed a self-ridiculing smirk at Butterfly before facing her grandfather again. Yes, I can run in the sun without worrying about my life now. But what of it? Grandfather, you taught me the morals of being human from a young age. But did you do what you preach? You offended my benefactor. Mrs. D saved me, saved my future. Yet you repaid the kindness by hurting her mother. Ji Sky's eyes flew into a shocked look. Unconvinced still, he hurried to confirm the fact for himself by checking Song's wrist. Originally there would be a black vein, the main artery in this area that showed the toxic remains. But there's nothing now. The toxin that he exhausted all his means and still failed to cure was gone, poof, healed. Gone like it's never been there. Still not convinced since there are ways to hide this using special effects. The senior releases his spiritual feelers out to scan the child from top to bottom and right down to her soul. Heavenly's in trouble. 1. All kinds of emotions are swirling within Ji Sky's eye right at this moment. Astonishment, shock, and elation? Song Yu. His voice began to shudder like he wanted to hear the answer directly from the granddaughter. My granddaughter can finally run free in the sunlight? The irony of the situation didn't go unshown in Song's expression. Grandfather, it's as you think, I have fully recovered. It was Mrs. D who gave me hope, and it's you who let me down. Even though she knew that Ji Sky only did this out of concern for herself, but this concern was too bigoted to the point where he would indiscriminately harm others. Song's been able to put up with that behavior since she's young, but this time he's gone too far. No matter what, she must make her grandfather understand the mistake of behaving this way, because it doesn't help anyone. The old senior's heart dropped, ashamed of himself as he hung his head low. Finally, he knows his actions has really let his granddaughter down. Song, I'm really sorry. Grandfather is really too worried about you that I mistakenly harmed Mrs. D's mother. This is all grandfather's fault. As long as you stop being angry at me, then grandfather here will do anything to make amends. Song pursed her lips. It's not me whom you need to apologize. It's Mrs. D and her mother. Taken aback for a second, the senior promptly turned to Bai Yin and Bai Ning's location. He tried to say something, but when the words reached his throat and was about to come out, he choked and couldn't say anything. Good thing the shame in his eyes was obvious enough, so everyone could figure out his meaning. Meeting that gaze, Bai Yan's expression didn't change or get any better. Turning to her daughter, she spoke in a soft, calm voice. Ling Yan, this place is not suitable for us. We will leave here in a bit. Okay. The pipsqueak snuggled up against her mother's chest and obediently nodded. She hated the fact that she's leaving without saying goodbye to her grandpapa. But she's more distressed about her mother and grandmother being hurt. So, she's not happy to stay here anymore. At this moment, Guya's gaze flickered with disbelief when locking onto Bai Yin. She didn't expect this demon queen to really cure Song. After all, not even Elder Sky could do a thing against the Soul Bane. G Sky's heart panicked, his throat croaking as he spoke with huge difficulty. Mrs. D, this is indeed my fault for not finding out the truth before acting. But no matter what, the fault lies with me. Our monarch likes Ling Yan so much. I'm imploring you to stay until his return. That is not needed. Bai Yin bluntly refused the request and slowly turned away. Ling Yan, mother, let's go. Wait. Seeing the departing back, Song could no longer keep calm and broke free of her grandfather's arm and ran up to the demon queen's side. Mrs. D, I want to leave with you. Raising an eyebrow. You are sure? Certain. Song nodded with a firm face. Ji Song. The senior completely lost his wits after hearing that, his eyes flustering with loss and panic. If you leave, then what about me, your grandfather? I only have you left as family. Are you really going to abandon grandfather here? Heavenly's in trouble too. Ji Song dropped her sight after hearing the plea. To tell the truth, she's also reluctant to give up her grandfather. After all, this person was her only family member remaining. But Bai Yan's her lifesaver, who got accused for misdeeds by her very own grandfather. This was the least she could to compensate such a misgiving. Not to mention, grandfather, as condition for Mrs. D saving me, I have given myself to her and promised to stay by Ling Yan's side from now on. G Sky choked, and the others froze in astonishment. Their eyes are now gathered on Song and Bai Yan's face. Mrs. D, the purpose of you saving my granddaughter before. It's so she would follow Miss Ling Yan, and not for you to get close to the monarch? Earlier, Guya clearly came to them claiming that this woman was risking Song's health in order to win them over with a debt. That way she could use this connection to approach the monarch. He didn't believe it fully, of course, but he also didn't dismiss it as nothing. And now his own granddaughter was saying Bai Yan only saved her in order to have her follow Miss Ling Yan? Then what about Guya's claim? Where did that come from? Mrs. D already has a husband and daughter. Why would she approach the monarch? Song's expression grew a little angry. Who in the world said such slandering words about Mrs. D? Apparently everyone here had dismissed this point until it's brought up again by the child. Even though they knew that Bai Yan had a daughter, but because they never met her husband, that they believed he's either dead or no longer around after abandoning the pair. Therefore, they didn't suspect the outlandish claim earlier from the despicable liar. Guya naturally saw those eyes locking onto herself then, and lost all color from the face. Clenching that fist, she didn't utter a single word, for she knew it's pointless, and would only dig a bigger hole for herself. Let's go. Bai Yan knew what they were doing after seeing the focus shifting away. Even so, she doesn't care at this point, and only wanted to leave this bunch behind, for their very presence annoyed her. Bai Ning only suffered a slight injury, so it's not a big deal to leave even without applying some sort of medicine. However, the Demon Queen's never been one to forget a slight against herself. Speaking without turning around or stopping. You harmed my mother tonight. The reason I'm not repaying you for that today is because Heavenly took in my daughter while I wasn't around. In return, there will not be any connection between this place and my daughter again. No connection between this place and my daughter again. The woman's announcement was like a hammer, smashing into everyone's heart. Who doesn't know that the pipsqueak was the precious treasure of the monarch during this period? But now, because of their folly in offending this woman, that bond has been shattered. That's their heads on the line. Just when all were frantic and unsure of what to do, an old figure quickly ran over from the front with panic, showing across his movement. It's not good, we have a major problem. Fifth Elder. Elder Butterfly only took a glance to recognize this person. For unknown reasons, her heart felt incredibly uneasy and urgently asked, "Didn't you follow the monarch when he left? Why did you return alone? Where's the monarch?" Pain apparent in those eyes, Fifth Elder spoke with panting breath. His monarchness had an accident in the ancient ruins, and now, we don't know if he's alive or dead. The others are still searching for him there. But I returned to bring news because I'm the fastest. Bai Ning, who originally went towards the exit, suddenly stopped as a result of that sentence. Her hand unknowingly clasped against her own chest like she's about to suffocate due to the panic. Heavenly's in trouble 3. Mother, what's wrong? Bai Yin became aware of Bai Ning's strangeness and turned to ask, slightly white in the face. The monarch of this house, what is his name? Life and death uncertain. Why do I feel so uneasy inside after hearing those words? I clearly don't know the guy. Why am I behaving this way? It's Heavenly. Bai Yin wrinkled her brow. It looks like I can't just leave like this. No matter what, that person did take care of Ling Yin when I wasn't around. And the way Mother is acting, I might have been too careless in my assessment. Perhaps Mother really did suffer a major injury from the fight. Heavenly. Heavenly. Bai Ning's body suddenly fell backwards without indication, her mouth coughing out blood as the color drained from that face. Mother. Bai Yin flew into shock, hurrying over in the nick of time to catch the patient. Worried apparent on the face. What's wrong? How come you are like this all of a sudden? Shaking her head. I don't know. I just feel stuffy in my heart. It's very uncomfortable. I clearly never seen that so-called monarch before. Why do I feel so sad inside for him? Mother, grandmother. The pipsqueak seems to have thought of something and tugged at the demon queen's sleeve. Grandpapa once told me he has another name. I think it was called Yin Feng. Mother, Grandpapa really is kind to me. Can we go help him, please? Yin Feng? Forget about Bai Ning's pale complexion. Even Bai Yan's face had lost all color after hearing that name. There's literally no blood left on their faces at this point, to the point where even their feet felt cold and numb. Yin Feng. Life and death uncertain? Why him? Why is Heavenly him? Trembling in the lip, Bai Yin rigidly held onto her own mother's hand and exchanged a shocked and horrified look between themselves. Pfff. Bai Ning coughed out blood again as she closed her eyes in pain. I see. No wonder I fell into such a panic. It all makes sense. We're husband and wife. The bond we share should have given me the hint from the very start. I'm so foolish for not sensing it earlier. Due to the shock of this horrible news, none of the elders or guards present were aware of the strange behavior of the ladies. However, that quickly changed when Bai Ning overtook the screaming Guya, who wanted to run over to the fifth elder for more details. Where's that ancient ruin? The mad wife clawed into the senior's robe and ripped him right off his feet. She, a fury, a flaming catastrophe capable of ripping apart all that became an obstacle. I. Fifth elder flailed around for a bit after discovering what has happened from out of the blue, his voice croaky and unsure of what to make of this. Take me to him now. Gawking after that demand, the senior was lost for words at the intense stare from those eyes. It's blinding and making him want to shrink away. Take me to him now. If you stall any longer, then I'll kill you. In Bai Ning's mind, any moment wasted here would mean an extra moment of danger for her husband. As such, she could only resort to violence if it meant getting her way. Finally coming back to his senses after hearing that threat, Fifth Elder turns to Elder Sky and the others for some sort explanation regarding this female who just ripped into him. Since Elder Sky already felt guilty towards Bai Ning and her family, the old grandfather didn't hesitate and nodded for his peer to show it's okay. Fifth Elder, take us all to the monarch. The first priority is to save our liege. Yin Feng's Peril 1. Guya's face changed for the worse as she stared towards Bai Ning, those eyes dark and grim. Elder Sky, this matter is the monarch manor's business. We shouldn't be letting outsiders interfere with this. Quiet. Ji Sky flew into a rage after being told this, his tone fierce and irate. He did not forget how it's this woman who instigated himself to come here tonight. If not for that, he wouldn't have been so rash to injure Bai Ning in the scuffle. So he no longer trusted her, nor did he want to be nice to the lady either. Guya froze at the loud roar, which caused her to freeze up for a second. Then upon further assessment, she suddenly found herself to be the outcast in this matter, as the impatient glares came flying over from Elder Sky and Elder Butterfly. Fifth Elder, who just came back, didn't understand the situation, so he didn't catch onto the tense mood. Clenching his teeth. Miss Guya, it's best you not get involved. Saving his monarchness is more important right now. Elder Sky, we need to leave now. Ji Sky nodded in agreement. He also didn't want to delay the matter. However, right as he's about to leave with his peer, he suddenly noticed Bai Ning's intense gaze coming their way. Tell me the exact location of the ancient ruins. Fifth Elder was taken aback at first since that question was obviously directed at himself instead of his counterparts. But thinking of the attitude Ji Sky and Butterfly showed towards this person, he subsided and replied earnestly. To the east. After 1,000 kilometers, head north another 500 kilometers, and you will find the ruins. Lady you. But before his sentence could be finished, Bai Ning's body had already turned into a torrent of wind and flew off into the horizon. Bai Yan also made haste by picking up the pipsqueak, but not before leaving instructions for Song, who also stood around. You stay here and wait for us. I will come back later. Heavenly is actually father. Slowly closing her eyes then, Bai Yan suddenly recalled back to the time where she read through the ancient diary left behind by that lady in red. Perhaps it's fate? That person kept talking about Heavenly in her diary. And now that very Heavenly is my own father in this life. Due to her own worry as well, Bai Yan didn't spend much time dwelling on unimportant connections, and quickly chased after her own mother's trail. But make no mistake, there's too much coincidence to consider this to be pure chance. The Demon Queen's bound to investigate the connection, it's just not now. Elder Sky didn't delay either in this case. However, instead of blazing off into the horizon like the two women before himself, the elder suddenly stopped midair above the manor and turned to Butterfly, who coming up. Elder Butterfly, I need you to stay here in the Monarch Manor. Someone needs to take charge while I and the Monarch is not around. Also, I need someone I can trust to take care of my granddaughter, please. Startled at first by the request, the female elder eventually sighed and nodded. She understood how much the child meant for her peer, and the risk of taking everyone off to the ancient ruins. I understand. With this assurance of Butterfly, Ji Sky felt a heavy load coming off his shoulder immediately. Without looking back, he too gave chase to everyone that has left. Miss! Unsure when, Senior Gu Lao had appeared next to Guya, his face full of undisguised concern for the lady. The person did not answer the old Gramps' words there. Instead she bit her lips and revealed an intense level of anger on her usual elegant face. As I said, there's no way Bai Yin doesn't have ideas toward the monarch. You've been fooled by her milady. She's a very scheming woman, playing the retreat card to advance even further. Now that the monarch is in danger, she immediately seized the opportunity to become the savior. Yunfeng's peril too. After overhearing parts of the conversation from Gu Lao, Elder Butterfly attitude got all mocking. You think the monarch would give special treatment to anyone? If you do, then I'm afraid to tell you that you're wrong. Otherwise you would have long become the monarch's wife. In other words, you, the so-called benefactor of Heavenly, was no more important than the rest of us. Therefore, Bai Yen and her mother wouldn't be able to ascend onto the great throne either as the man's wife. What's more, since Bai Yen has a daughter, it proves that she has a husband. The same was true of Bai Yan's mother. And regarding Ling Yan's motive, that's not even in the equation since she's so young and innocent. Anything was no doubt Guya's self-conceited imagination. Elder Butterfly, don't you think you're going too far? Gu Lao could not take it anymore after those remarks. Our miss only wants to help out of concern, yet Fifth Elder and Elder Sky won't even let her follow, so what can she do? What's more, how is it fair that those two ladies can follow while we can't? Don't you think that's unfair and biased? That actually made Butterfly laugh. She has had no favorable opinion of Guya ever since she overheard their conversation regarding the monarch's recovery. Before, she didn't pursue the matter due to her loyalty. After all, the most important thing was Heavenly's return. It doesn't matter who actually carried out the mission, but now, things are different. After hearing Gu Lao's thoughts, this female elder only found it ridiculous and laughable. Gu Lao, I guess you arrived too late to know the whole situation regarding Song's recovery. The old senior made a surprised face there. He obviously didn't hear the whole story. This was especially true regarding that sickly child. And, Butterfly narrowed in her eyes, the one who healed Song is none other than Mrs. D, Ling Yan's own mother. Taking a few steps forward, she puts on an overbearing attitude. So by virtue of her skills alone, do you think she's qualified to follow Elder Sky and Fifth Elder or not? Or do you believe Guya is better than her? It's then Song also decides to chime in with a huffing grunt. Mrs. D is the most incredible. How can Guya compare? In particular, she actually framed Mrs. D in front of grandfather. So hateful. Guya's face got a little whiter without blood showing. She's trembling on the lips, which indicated she's without rebut. However, right as Gu Lao's about to speak in her defense again, the lady couldn't keep quiet. It's okay, Gu Lao. You don't need to speak on my behalf. It's no use here. They're all set on thinking I'm only acting with ulterior motive. Miss, Gu Lao looked at her with pain. The miss only loves Heavenly to death. Anything she does, it's for him and him alone. So, what's wrong with that? Enough, there's nothing more to say, we're going back. Guya bites her lip when facing Butterfly. I have nothing to ask of the monarch. I only hope you can inform me once Heavenly's back. As long as I can see him back safely, then I am satisfied. Despite the sneer on Butterfly's face, the female elder nevertheless nodded in agreement. You can go back now. I know you have your own eyes here, so why ask me to inform you? Leave. I don't want to continue this conversation anymore. Yunfeng's Peril 3. Guya casted one last look at Butterfly before turning away, not saying a single word, as that figure disappeared into the night. Since the female elder has said things to such a degree, she too had no need to keep being nice. It's one thing if the mask hadn't been ripped apart, but this situation has clearly done that, so neither party needed to keep up the facade. Song. Seeing they're alone now, Butterfly slowly comes before the child and squats down, speaking in a soft, gentle voice that unexpectedly relaxed the air. You don't have to worry too much, your grandfather and Mrs. D will be fine. Nothing bad will happen. Despite the consoling words, Song only stared into the air at the direction of where they all left, her eyes filled with sadness and worry. I hope grandfather and Mrs. D will come back soon. Just like the silence of the night, the ancient ruins are also without sound due to the anxious air hovering above the heads of the people surrounding this place. They are waiting for help from the monarch manor. It's then when the mood grew increasingly more oppressive and unsettling. Several figures had swooped down from the looming clouds. Thank goodness you're here, Elder Sky. The monarch is still not back yet, and we have no information about his condition. Please hurry and think of something. The ones saying this are all looking anxious and urgent, which goes to show how powerless they are right now. Heavenly was their main backbone, that only returned after much difficulty, so it's not hard to understand why they are panicking so hard. What exactly happened, and where is he? Bai Yin swept her furrowed gaze across the group, and asked using that cold, edgy voice. Elders, this is... An old man frowned as he landed his sight upon the female in question, those eyes showing an examining light. She's Miss Ling Yan's mother, and you can go ahead and tell her. Ji Sky did not have time to explain the identity of Bai Yin, so he glossed over the details, and urged his peer to get on with it. Perhaps the medical skills could even come in handy if he's not wrong. After all, she did cure his granddaughter tonight. Third elder became stunned by what he heard. It's no secret Heavenly dotes on that little pipsqueak. And for the sake of the child, they've been searching high and low for the girl's mother. And now standing before himself was the mother of that very child? We had just accompanied the monarch deep into the ruins, but it wasn't long before a mass of black mist devoured the monarch. Black mist? Putting down her daughter, Bai Yin turns to Bai Ning. Mother, we will go see for ourselves. Bai Ning nodded and followed Bai Yin into the ruins. Although this place was considered ancient relic of the past, but the insides were like another world. There's a bridge up ahead, after going through the entrance where it leads to a straight road. You guys don't have to come in. Bai Yin saw the elders and others wanted to follow as well, so she immediately stopped them. I and my mother is enough. To be clear, that's not out of concern for Elder Sky and the rest. Rather, it's for her precious daughter's sake. The more protection there was for the pipsqueak, the more relieved she would be while investigating this ruin. Besides, what good are they anyways? If they are capable, then why would they themselves need to come, right? Yunfeng's peril for Mother. Di Lingyan's face were filled with tears, those big red eyes staring up in a pleading manner. Are you going to leave Lingyan behind? I also want to find Grandpapa. The sound of the little milky soft bun melted away the demon queen's hard expression at the moment. Crouching down, the mother reaches out to rub the little head. Be good, Lingyan. Mother is only going inside to search for your grandpapa. We will be back really fast, so don't worry. Can you stay here and wait for Mother? Mother lie. It's clearly very dangerous. The pipsqueak protests in a pitiful tone. Lingyan isn't as skillful as Big Brother. But as long as I can be together with Mother, then I am afraid of nothing. I'm not afraid of danger. Bai Yan's heart felt so sour and pained when hearing that proclamation. Brainstorming a better excuse, the demon queen knew there's nothing she could say after seeing that stubborn little face. Stealing her inside to not make this more painful. Lingyan, if Mother and your grandmother go inside, then we have 50% chance to bring your grandpapa back out safely. If we bring you along, then that chance would go down drastically, because we will need to keep an eye out for you. Do you understand? So stay here with them. Your grandpapa's people will protect you while we're away. No matter what the elders did before, these people were sincere towards Lingyan. Coupling this with the fact that they're father's own men, Bai Yan had no reason to believe they are going to harm Lingyan while they are not looking. Still staring upwards with those big blue eyes, Di Lingyan finally relented and gradually lowered her clinging hands from the woman's sleeve. Nevertheless, the face she made told everyone how much she hated being left behind. Okay, I will wait here for you, Mother. As long as Mother doesn't come back, then I won't go anywhere. Even if this kind of waiting equated to a lifetime, she won't budge. Bai Yan knows her words must hurt a lot, but sometimes the best course of action was to be cruel, so it doesn't hurt more later. The demon queen knows her daughter was cleverer than the average baby. She would eventually understand even if the worst comes to pass. However, it doesn't change the fact that the child's sensibility distressed the demon queen to no ends. She's a real bad mother for making their child go through so much. I'm leaving my daughter here with you guys, she said with power in that voice. If the duration is too long, help me take care of Lingyan until her father's comes. At this moment, everyone's heart was shocked by her words. They wanted to help Heavenly before when he fell into danger, but that black mist overwhelmed them and forcibly pushed them away. And now this woman was willing to risk her life for their monarch? And that statement, it's almost like a will. Why are they going this far when they're unrelated? I'll go in with you. Ji Sky frowned and stepped forward. No need. Tossing this down, Bai Yin did not want to say more than that, and left with Bai Ning. Mother, let's go. No matter the dispute, Ji Sky's strength was undoubtedly the strongest while they were at the manor. So, for the sake of keeping Lingyan safe, Bai Yin doesn't want this old man to tag along either. Otherwise, she wouldn't be comfortable going inside this ruin and leaving Lingyan alone. Bang! As soon as the two ladies were inside, the gate acting as the entrance to this ancient ruin abruptly slammed shut. Elder Sky, this woman. Who exactly is she? Fifth elder asks with open strain plastered across his face. I do not understand them. They know very well that they might die inside, or go missing like the monarch. Why are they going this far for us? Yinfeng's Peril 5. Ji-Sky hung his head in thought for a long while before looking back up towards the closed gate. She closed the door to the ruin. To stop us from dying? She closed the door for our sake? Can't be. She already expects to encounter danger? That's why she said that stuff about looking after Miss Ling Yan until the father comes around? Is that why? Elder Sky, you still haven't told me what happened between you and Mr. D yet. Fifth elder was starting to get impatient and got all rowdy, making a bittersweet face. Before you came back to get us, I injured Mrs. D's mother. What? Fifth elder's face changed drastically, his voice racy and panting with anxiety. You hurt her mother? Yes. Ji-Sky closed his old eyes, that eyelash fluttering due to the guilt he felt inside. It's because of Guya. She came running over earlier tonight and claimed Mrs. D wants to become the monarch's wife. In order to achieve that, she was going to use me by gambling with Song's health. You know me. If Song really did become healthy again, then I would have been so grateful that she could have asked me for anything. But, thinking of what had happened, Ji-Sky sighed and appeared all the much older with that deflated shoulder. Guya then told me Mrs. D doesn't have that sort of skill. Whatever she planned to do would end up killing my granddaughter. The mountains around the ruins were a tranquil calm with none willing to speak, as they listened in to the whole story. As for the ending, they didn't need to guess, because if Bai Yan were here then, that meant the treatment was a success. Everyone knew how crazy Elder Sky could get if it's related to Song. If that girl really did die, he wouldn't be standing here, and instead murdered the perpetrator for killing his only family member left. And then what? Fifth elder got all edgy due to his peer for not continuing the story. You didn't ask for the details and injured the lady's mother, right? Ji-Sky returned with a bitter smile and nodded. You know me. Whenever I hear something bad about Song, I would lose it. I had intended to go find Mrs. D and get an explanation, but was blocked by Miss Ling Yin partway there. Afterwards, that's when Mrs. D's mother showed up as well from out of the blue. I was in a panic and didn't think things through, so I ended up hurting the other lady you saw going inside the ancient ruins. I really didn't mean to cause such a huge mistake. When the last words came out, a brief moment of silence fell upon this mountain once again, their eyes all looking towards the direction of the closed gate. There's worship in their eyes, and some were mixed with pure gratitude with shining light flickering from within. In their view, such a fine character of a woman deserves much respect. Not only did Bai Yin save Song, which proves her medicinal skills are beyond even that of Elder Sky, she also shut the gate in order to keep them safe here on the outside. How could they not be grateful when she's doing so much? However nice those opinions were, these idiots are in fact overthinking the matter. Truth was Bai Yin merely didn't want them to follow along and be deadweights. There's also the fact that she wanted a proper guardian for Ling Yin in case anyone attacks. Guya for one was a danger that she couldn't ignore. And then there's the other domains. Who knows if they would send people over to assassinate her daughter while she's not looking. Yunfeng's Peril 6 inside the ruins. Bai Yan's gaze flickered with light as she stared at the crossing bridge. Mother, wait here for me. I'll go test the terrain first. As soon as she said that, the Demon Queen's figure had already sped towards the other end of the bridge, where the deep dark running water of the river flowed loudly beneath their feet. Due to her fast speed, Bai Ning couldn't catch on until the lady had already stood in the middle section. Like the information foretold, countless black mists began to materialize into existence as soon as this was done until it devoured her entire figure. There's something in there. Countless dark hands trying to pull her into something beyond this world. Yin Yan! Bai Ning flew into shock. Wanting to save her daughter, this horrified mother didn't think twice and reached out with her hand to grab at dark mist. Unfortunately, instead of being devoured or grabbing hold of anything, her hands instead directly passed through the mass and out through the other side. Before long, the mist dissipated, leaving nothing but an empty bridge, and a mother desperately crying out for a reply. Yin Yin, how did this happen? Yunfeng's situation is uncertain, and now my daughter's disappeared too? But why am I still standing here safe and sound? Bai Ning clenched her lips, and became a headless being that didn't know where to go. She's circling around the bridge for any clue, anything that she could grasp upon for help. Surrounded by a white vastness after being dragged away, Bai Yin blindly strolled forward without aim at this strange world. It's then when her mind was about to fade away, a beam of light shot into her eyes, causing the woman to shield her sight with a hand to not be blinded. In light of the difficult view, the demon queen became like a moth, being drawn towards that brightness. Eventually she could no longer see anything aside from the light. Then abruptly, a hand grabbed her by the shoulder and dragged her out from the whiteness. Yin Yin, wake up! The voice sounded very familiar, and for that her heart trembled. Without hesitation, Bai Yin shot open her eyes and took in that handsome face. There's obvious worry in the man's expression. Yin Yin, you're finally awake. Bai Yin rubbed the temple as her head throbbed with pain. Warm in his voice, Heavenly loses his urgency and smiled. You were passed out just now. Yin Yin, how come you are here? And how did you find me? The woman fell into a daze as she tried to organize her head. So I passed out earlier. That white vastness should be my own subconsciousness then. And the light is probably Father's voice. Otherwise I wouldn't have woken up so soon. Father! Bai Yin shot her hands up and tightly hooked it around Heavenly's neck, her face leaning in against the man's chest. You're all right, thank goodness. Along the way, she has been worried sick about when Yunfeng's well-being, whether he fell into danger or worse died. That would no doubt hurt everyone to no ends. Yinner, why are you here? Yunfeng's peril 7. That's a long story, Father. I came to this domain by accident. Prior to then, I didn't know Heavenly was you at all. Bai Yin loosened her arms around the man and stared upwards at that handsome yet mature face. What exactly happened after you left the misty fairy house? How come you never came back or searched for us? Heavenly made a surprised face, but quickly lowered his head in thought. I left home in an attempt to find your mother. It's during my journey that I remembered my previous life and figured out I was Heavenly Flame, the monarch of the heavenly domain. Clenching her fist after that detail, Bai Yin gets all tense in the face. Then why didn't you come back to find us? Mother misses you so much, she's always thinking about you. Going stiff in the body, the man's eyes fell into a trance, recalling back to that enchanting female whom he dreamed about for years. Yes, Ninger and I haven't seen each for so long. Now even our child has grown up and with child. Perhaps it's his mind remembering back to the happy times of his life. Heavenly's lip curved into an arcing smile. Yin Yin, it's not that Father doesn't want to go see you and your mother, but I've made way too many enemies in the past life. In order to stop the endless war between all the domains, I had to forcibly seal away the path linking all the worlds. They all hate me for that. Unless I can solve these dangers, it's impossible to not drag you all into this mess. Reaching out, Bai Yin gently grasped onto her father's hand as she spoke. Father, you are so foolish sometimes. We are family, what difficulties can't we overcome? Do you not see me? I never back down before danger. Why would I or any of our family care if there are more? Her strength has been growing, and so has her roster of enemies. If she were to be fearful of death, then she would have long perished during her first encounter with the enemy. Chuckling at her daughter's strength, Heavenly shakes his head at himself. Yes, you are absolutely right, Yin Yin. I've been foolish. It took me a while to realize that, and it's only thanks to a child by the name of Ling Yen to make me understand that part. Oh right, once we leave this place I will introduce her to you. She's so adorable. I'm sure you will love to meet her. Grinning mischievously like a fox, Bai Yin gets all devilish in her tone. When we get out of here, I also have a surprise for you, Father. Father doesn't know Ling Yen is his granddaughter. I bet he will be quite taken to know he's gotten more grandchildren again. In order to avoid causing her old man from getting too impatient, the Demon Queen decides to keep the wonderful news till later. They're still stuck in the ruins, and rashness would only bring more harm to their situation. Ha ha, I can't wait to see your surprise then. Heavenly bellowed out a laugh. Yen yen, didn't Xiaochen always want a little sister? Why don't you introduce those two? I bet they will be wonderful playmates. Revealing a strange light in her eyes. If there's an opportunity, of course. What opportunity is there need to be? They're siblings, they already know each other since birth. Not long after Bai Yen stood up from the ground, a loud roar suddenly reached their ears from a distance. Frowning, Heavenly's expression got serious. They're coming again. Coming again? Asked Bai Yen with a puzzled face, making a small laugh at the situation. I've been here for months, and every half a month there would be a wave of monsters charging at me. Furthermore, I can't sense any essences of life in these creatures. It's like they're all puppets being controlled by something or someone. That roar you heard, it's the signal that half a month is here again. He's been here for months? If I remember correctly, he should have only been missing for a few days only? How did it turn into a few months from his mouth? Yunfeng's Peril. 8. Just as Bai Yen was musing over the inconsistency of the timeline, those monsters she heard had already come close enough to be in her view. At a glance, the Demon Queen could already notice the difference. They did not have a soul, more like a puppet machine that only knows how to kill, that left the whole area muffled with a suffocating stench. To be clear, there are no signs of these creatures being controlled by anyone. Even so, she had no intentions of letting them kill her merely because they are acting on whatever wavelengths they are on. Drawing her God-slayer from the waist, Bai Yan's gaze turned sharp and cold at the first monster that drew too close. Swish! Smooth and precise, she sliced the beast directly in half through the middle. Father, how about we compete on who can kill the most here? Chuckling at the idea, Heavenly found it quite entertaining. Okay. Today me and my daughter will have a good competition on who can kill more. Even if these monsters are lifeless drones, they still bled like any living creature. However, what they lacked in pain receptors were made up by their strong awareness in sensing intruders. Before long, hordes of monsters were drawing closer and closer, until even the sky had darkened. It's as if the world's about to be covered by these things. Unyielding and unrelenting, Bai Yen has never been one to cower before a challenge. Another slash with her God-slayer. More were gutted with blood sprayed across the air. This woman's a genuine siege, destroying everything in her wake. Whatever advantage numbers had paled in comparison to her might. This was what Heavenly saw in his daughter, as he took a glance after finishing his own target. Charming, mighty powerful, a dazzling blur of red in this battlefield. How could this man not be happy to have such an incredible daughter? This was his child, his flesh and blood. In merely a few years of being apart, she's grown far beyond his wildest imagination. A proud father he was, and rightfully so. In a measly short hour, the hordes were decimated under the pair's might. There are innards littering the ground, red staining the dirt, and the stench of irony blood liquid filling the air that made the smell putrid to the nose. Despite this, the carnage could not compare to the bloodiness of Bai Yan's red dress. It's crimson, glowing even, that oozes the stench of death and glory. I killed 55 monsters, father. Stabbing his own blade on the ground after wiping some of the blood off his forehead, Heavenly smiled. I killed 55 as well. Cocking her brow in surprise at the number. Then that means it's a draw. Father, so these monsters will keep coming after half a month later? You certain about this? Bai Yen frowned as she scoped out the mountain of corpses here. She remembers this place being quite clean when she awoke. So what happened to those previous hordes of monsters? That's right, they will keep showing up at the half-month mark. Their strength will also grow with every wave. As for the corpses, you can just ignore them. They will disappear on their own along with the blood on our clothes after a while. The way Heavenly said that showed he's become accustomed to this pattern. Another proof that he's been fighting and not lying. How come you never thought about leaving this place? Bai Yan's already wrinkled forehead tightened further. It's within reason for her to be perplexed. If the timeline here moved faster than the outside, then he should have tried to leave a while back. Why stay and continue this fruitless fight? Then there's the detail about the monsters growing stronger with every wave. It would be a matter of time before those things grow so powerful that they would fail to fend off. It's a dead end if this continues. How can I not want to leave? Heavenly makes a bittersweet smile and shook his head. But look around, Yin Yen. Do you see an exit? I've searched the terrain and the mountain ranges already. It always led me back to this spot somehow. That's when I thought, perhaps the way to leave is to kill enough of these mindless monsters? Maybe then the exit will appear. Collapsed Ruin 1. Bai Yin got all quiet. It's too dangerous to go on like this, and she doesn't believe there's truly no exit to reach the outside world. There must be a way. They merely haven't found it yet. Father, come with me. I don't believe there's no way out of this big place. Her eyes fell upon the big blue sky, those eyes carrying a determined light as they narrowed in. Unbeknownst to herself, the delay in here would have astronomical effects on the outside world by the time they actually leave. It's been several months since Bai Yin went deep into the ruins for the special rescue operation, and during this period the pipsqueak had never once left her spot on which she sat. Many tried to persuade her to go back to the manor, so she doesn't have to endure the harsh weather, but each time the child would refuse the request by stubbornly sitting on the rock she picked. Ji-Sky naturally worried for the security of the monarch manor after spending so much time away. However, he also knew he couldn't just leave this precious girl here in the wilderness. As such, the senior had no choice but to task Fifth Elder to go back first while he waited around the ruins with Ling Yan. And since Bai Yan's departure, Ling Yan hadn't said much at all, nor has she eaten a single bite of food in months. Fortunately for her though, even if she doesn't eat for months, she would remain unharmed thanks to the nourishment of the spirit particles in the air. Miss Ling Yan, your mother will be all right, so please eat something. Your body can't go on like this. It doesn't take much for everyone to notice the oddity with the pipsqueak's constitution. If it were an ordinary cultivator, then they wouldn't have much issue if they don't eat for months. But he couldn't sense an ounce of spirit particle in this girl's body. That meant she's not a cultivator, and was keeping herself sustained through natural means. I'm going to wait for Mother. That's the first reply she's given to Elder Sky in these few months. Instead of being delighted at the response though, the senior only grew more worried. What am I supposed to do? Bai Yin entrusted her daughter to me. I can't let her suffer like this. If not, why don't we go back to the Monarch Manor and wait there? Ji-Sky tries again after much deliberation. No, if Mother doesn't come back then I won't leave. If she doesn't come back for life then I won't ever leave this spot. But Ji-Sky's eye became grim over that statement. Right as he's about to say more, a loud bang suddenly cuts him off and causes everyone to look over to the source. At that moment, the original standing ruins suddenly fell apart and came crashing down in a roar. Everyone was stunned by this disastrous display, not able to understand what's going on and why it's happening. Ling Yan was equally as shocked, but that shock quickly transformed into horror and fear as she bolted for the rubble. Mother, grandmother! Her tears flowed down those cheeks, the expression desperate and panicking. It's dangerous! Ji-Sky flew into absolute shock and hurried forward to grab at the girl's little arm. He's equally as urgent but carried more control in the voice. You can't go over there, it's too dangerous. You let me go. The voice of the pipsqueak sounded angry. I want to be with Mother. I want to be with Mother forever. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.